and welcome to episode 137 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the wandering beer guy, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Thrilling music continues.
Oh, okay. That's what we're doing. Yes, yes. That might be my favorite moment. on this week's episode, a new teaser drops. Al does a reading, and we talk about what to watch for, along with other news and nuggets, all before diving into our flick of the week, The Wandering Earth. But first, Al, we got something special.
We do.
We're restocked.
We are.
What are we drinking?
We're drinking the first of... There's probably what do we have, 6 or 8 Newberg beers coming up over the next few months?
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, 2 weekends ago, Anthony was able to come up and hang out for a bit, and we were able to exchange some beers. I think we're stocked through halfway through 2021.
We could eke out 22.
Yeah. So, we're drinking a Newberg beer, which we always love to do, harkening back to our very original episode. And also, they're like 15 minutes from me, so it's like super easy to grab beer from them. And they've been delivering it to me in this pandemic.
Oh, how wonderful.
So, along with empanadas, which,
What a treat.
It is.
Who's gonna order beer for a delivery that's gonna be coming soon? See the option to tick off also empanadas and not do it.
I know, right?
Is my question. Okay.
Plus some merch, which we'll get into in a minute. So we're drinking Newberg Brewing Beach Chair Coconut Brown Ale. This was a limited release. It's proudly brewed... Why would they put white on light yellow? Proudly brewed and canned by Newberg Brewing Company in Newburgh, New York. 4.2% alcohol by volume. It came in a pint.
It does.
They always ask you to drink local, which is great. We took our brown ale, we added coconut, and blended it with whiskey barrel-aged brown ale. It's brown ale for the beach.
I mean, you're just speaking my language.
Yeah.
It sounds delightful. The can, as always, looks delightful. I will say that we have an official pint glass of Flix and a Six, which will be used today. One minor note, not saying it's bad, not saying it's good. Their pint does not fit in their pint glass.
See, I've always been a little unsure about this. Is this supposed to be a pint glass? Because I never thought that this was supposed to be pint-sized.
I'm pretty sure it's a pint glass.
Well, I've drank out of other glasses this size, and I think it's more like 14 or 15 ounces, because it doesn't ever... These glasses never seem to fit an actual pint.
Yeah, I don't know. Or this is just over full. You're getting more for your money.
I was going to say, we could be looking at this the wrong way. Instead of saying that the glass is skimping on us, we could be saying that maybe we got 16 and a half ounces of beer.
Yeah. That's that drink local tax. It's reverse.
Yes.
You don't pay it.
The drink local premium?
The drink local premium. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, man. I'm excited about this one. Let's give this a taste.
We both have Newberg glasses, which is a delight.
You know what? Is this logo new?
No, they've always had. Well, I don't know about always, but they've had it for a very long time.
I've never noticed the heart with the beer in it. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Brewed with heart.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not discounting, but it's just awesome. I'm gonna slowly raise this to my lips. Woo, woo! Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, man.
Drink it in. It always goes down.
Oh, that is smooth. It is oh so fragrant. I taste everything it says on the can.
Whiskey, brown, and...
Yes, 100%. And,
you know how there's like purple Kool-Aid?
Oh, man.
It's purple flavored?
And it's nicely light.
Yes. Well, that's the thing is everyone... Well, not everyone. That's probably not fair. A lot of people associate dark beers with heavy beers. And while that's mostly true, it's certainly not always true. Yeah. And this is a light and airy beer with a roasty, toasty mouth feel. Well, not mouthfeel, taste. Let's go with taste. Yeah. It's got a very smooth, silky smooth mouthfeel, which is nice. It's coconutty, which is delightful. It's got just enough whiskey. It's not overpowering, which sometimes that can be nice with a brown or a porter. But in this case, I think it's just restrained enough.
Oh, my. That's 2 thumbs.
Yeah,
that's two thumbs. It's all the thuckles. It's
all the thuckles. We're loading this beer up with thuckles right now.
I'm so happy you're back, Newberg. I've missed you.
You made a good choice to get it started with. Not to say that the other ones won't be as good. This one, though,
right? But this is I
already knew I liked this one a lot. So
the bar is high. The bar is high.
Well, I cheated. I bought 2 4-packs of this when it came out, so I already knocked through one of those 4-packs.
Nice, nice. Well, you buried the lead well.
Yeah.
When I said this one, it was almost like you were like, "Oh, okay." Little did I know.
Well, I don't want to taint the jury selection here. I want it to be you coming in fresh. Be excited for Newberg as you should be. Have that excitement rewarded properly.
There's when I take a whiff, and I mean like when I take a big whiff of this, I put my nose all up in the glass,
like suction enough to maybe lift some of the liquid up.
Like some of it hits you. Right when I come back after dealing with the fluid up my nose, some sort of Christmas cookie is what I'm getting. I'm trying to put like there's something very specific that I've eaten in the past around the holidays that this reminds me of, and I don't know what it is.
I'm gonna guess something with toffee, maybe, because
probably
often it's a little bit more hidden in this one than it would be in their normal brown because you're competing with the whiskey and coconut.
Sure.
I know my brown had notes of toffee in it, which were truly delightful as well, and I believe that the plain old Newberg brown also has that as well. English toffee specifically, I believe. Actually, funny that we should mention toffee because for some reason, I opened a closet in my kitchen, and in it, from I'm assuming Halloween, was a tiny little Heath bar, which I popped right into my mouth.
Love Heath bars. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
There's an ice cream that I make, coffee Heath bar crunch.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, is that a treat? So good.
I had this ice cream. It was like maple bourbon brown sugar ice cream.
I've had something like that. Oh, yeah.
We had it like a couple weeks ago here, and it was so fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Man, I like a toffee.
Yeah. Underrated. Toffee's underrated. I love Let's bring toffee back.
Yeah. Let's reclaim toffee? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, because I feel like toffee's been left back in the 1950s along with very large toaster ovens that are made of chrome. And let's bring toffee back.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Where do you land on taffy?
It's fun. I always really like the idea of taffy. And then...
What? What a tremendous review.
I always get really excited when someone brings me a box of taffy, and then I eat 3 pieces of it, and I'm like, "Wow, this is such a chore." I'll get to some more of this later, and then it's 6 months later.
If you got to strengthen those jaw muscles, that's what you do. You eat some taffy.
Well, the problem is I have fillings in some of my teeth, and I'm afraid they won't be there anymore.
Okay, fair enough.
The problem with taffy is if you let it sit around long enough, it becomes the consistency of toffee.
The taffy toffee correlation, of course.
It's the old taffy toffee. I always love this hand motion because it reminds me of, and you've never gotten there in Archer, but it's one of the great stupid jokes of all time that they do in that show. So
Al's doing a waving motion with his hands.
Yes, kind of like a wave.
For all of you who can't see us.
Well, you can see, and that's all that really matters. So in season 5 of Archer, light spoilers for a season that came out 5 years ago.
Sure.
They all get arrested in the first episode of the season. And it turns out that ISIS, and they named that organization that before the terrorist organization, and have since stopped using that name. But back then they were still known as ISIS, and they were all arrested because apparently ISIS was illegally doing spying activities. So the FBI comes in and rolls them all up. They negotiate their way out of it, but what they failed to let be known to the FBI was that they had a ton of cocaine, a literal ton of it.
Perfect.
And so they become drug dealers or at least they try to become drug dealers for the rest of the season. And that season is Archer Vice. And
oh my god.
So the FBI periodically checks up on them. So One of the FBI agents is named Slater, and he's voiced by Christian Slater, and he looks exactly like Christian Slater.
I think I maybe have seen this or some of it.
You may have seen some of that.
Yeah.
We didn't get to it when we were watching it together, and I don't think you've watched any since then. It's probably been a solid year. We were early in season 3. But Slater's boss is, I forget what his name is, but he's voiced by Gary Cole. And so...
Perfect. As all bosses should be, in real life and in animation.
Yeah. So they relocate to Cheryl/Carol/Charlene's mansion in New York City. And it's gigantic, and they kind of all have their own wing of the house. And I forget exactly what happens, and something... The FBI comes to the door.
Okay.
And they're doing like a quote-unquote routine random inspection of the house to make sure they're not doing anything illegal. And Archer... So I think someone rings the doorbell or something like that, and Woodhouse is going to go into the door, and Archer says, don't invite anyone in. You know, guests are like vampires. You know, once you invite them, like they're in, and you can't get rid of them. So I think he mentions it like offhand, and then the doorbell rings, and Woodhouse answers the door, and he comes back and he says, "Oh, it's Mr. whatever his name from the FBI," and they're like, "Don't let him in." He goes, "Sorry, sir, I've already invited him in." He goes, "Oh, God!" And they go to the door, and he goes, "Get out!" And he goes, "Nope, sorry, we're the FBI." And he goes, "You can't come in here unless there's you have a warrant for arrest. We're not doing anything suspicious." And then he goes, "We're the FBI. Once we've been invited, we're in. We're in." Much like vampires.
That's great. That's fantastic. Where you were also 2 thumbs on this bad boy?
Yeah, no, I love this beer. It's great.
Okay, so just wanted to circle back one more time because if you can get this, you should get this.
The only other beer that I had that was somewhat like this, and it might even be slightly better. I can't remember if we did it for the show or not. Was the Maui Brewing coconut? I think it's coconut porter, not coconut brown.
I'm not sure. I know we did a coconut something from Cyprus. That's really good.
I'm pretty sure we did one Maui beer. I don't know if it was that one. I know you and I have talked about it when I went to Hawaii.
When you're 137 beers in, it gets a little hard to keep track.
137? You're forgetting about Cloud Atlas Part 1.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, how could you?
Exactly. All right, shall we get into some news and nuggets?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
News for us because I don't really have.
I got a minor one. I saw a new teaser today.
Nice for.
Well, see, that's where the story starts to go south. It's just okay. I mean, it was for Halloween Kills. Have you seen Did you see the teaser?
No, I was not aware.
It's pretty. It's as much. It's like it's basically slapstick, right? It's like because for whatever reason, Michael Myers is never dead, right? And spoilers, I guess, for that last Halloween movie that came out sometime ago. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to say it anyway. The end of the movie, we did it. We did an episode on it. The house is on fire. Michael Myers locked in the basement. House on fire. Laurie Strode leaves, right? With, I think, her daughter and granddaughter and in the back of a pickup truck.
So you're remembering this differently. We didn't actually do an episode on it. You just did a whole segment on it.
Oh. Anyway.
I never saw the movie.
Anyway, so that's what happens, and they're leaving. They're driving on the highway, and you're like, "Oh, he's gonna burn." Like, there's no way out. He's burning to death in there, and then
wait, you actually thought that?
What's that?
You actually thought that?
No. Like, well, for a moment when I thought that'd be nice if we were just done with this franchise
for a moment of 2 seconds,
right? Until like moments after I finished watching the movie, it was like the next 2 were announced. So there's that. But the teaser is basically they're still on the highway. They're flying down the highway. She's like completely traumatized again, as she always is in the state of Halloween films. And fire trucks are blaring sirens, and they're going the other way down the highway. And she's going, "No, let him burn." And that's it. And it says Halloween Kills 2021.
Now, was that supposed to come out at the end of this year?
I think so. It's it was supposed to be this year and next year, the two in succession.
That's right.
But I guess they're probably just pushing it out 1 year piece. But I was just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't care for the Halloween movies, but for whatever reason, I'm continually drawn to them.
Yeah, you're the one who keeps trying to make it a thing.
I know. You know what it is? I feel like I'm missing something.
Guys, I just want to get it, okay?
Yeah, that's it. I just want to get it. And then when I watched the first one, like the original, I was like, man, this is not good.
See, I remember that conversation. I think we had a guest on that episode. Might have been
Gary?
Brian? Maybe it was Gary.
Brian?
It might have been Gary.
I think it was Gary.
We talk a lot of horror movies with Gary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're basically Kanye West in the Fish Sticks episode of South Park. and I'm Carlos Mencia. Just get it, man. Please just get it.
I don't get it. And in the vein of not getting it, I'm going to watch the next two probably and see.
I'm sure you'll get it eventually.
Well, you know what it is? I got one of them. I thought one of them was very good. The first remake with Rob Zombie, thought was a good movie.
H2O?
The sequel to that movie, so bad. Potentially. Oh yeah, the Rob Zombie sequel, until Phantom Thread and Roma, was the worst movie I had ever seen.
Oh. Wait, yeah, that was the first of them was H2O, right? Halloween 20 years later or whatever.
Yeah. There was Halloween 20 years later.
What was the other one?
H2O2? That was the next one was Resurrection. Right? And then the next one was Halloween.
Again.
And the next one was Halloween 2.
Nice.
And the next one was Halloween. And the next one is Halloween Kills.
Is this like Fast and Furious versus Fast and the Furious?
Yeah. What I'm most amazed by is that there's the third Halloween movie has nothing to do with Michael Myers, which is just another thing. I think I'm just fascinated by this series and how it's gone on for as long as it did.
Okay.
There's a Paul Rudd Halloween.
What?
Yeah. I think it's like the sixth one, or the fourth or the sixth one has Paul Rudd in it.
I'm lost now.
Somehow I know it's not the fifth one. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, can we go into that? Why do you know that?
I don't know. I have a weird thing with numbers. I know it was even. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
I saw part of it once when I had cable, and it was the Halloween season, and just horror movies are on all the time. Which is like, those are the only things I really miss about cable television, is like the holiday season and just generally putting on like this holiday genre of movie and like just turning the TV and just watching whatever's there. But that is how I was in the apartment in Hoboken. It was Halloween. I was doing stuff around the house. I had whatever channel on that does this. And I was like, that's Paul Rudd. I wonder what this movie is. And I was like, that's Michael Myers. What's happening? Oh man. But such a weird franchise with like 3 different timelines.
Wait, there's different timelines?
Well, yeah, because there's a bunch of movies and they're not all cohesive. There's like 1 and 2 go together, and then 1 and 1 go together, and then
I don't like
3 is just there. Exactly. Oh, man. Anyway, that's enough of Halloween Kills. I think you should watch the trailer, and you should laugh as hard as I did.
Well, you mentioned something about them being in Succession, which reminded me that Succession is not coming out this summer because they never technically got started making that season, which is depressing. But other things,
that's unfortunate,
supposedly are coming out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Now let's
what do we got?
About
what do we got?
Those.
Yeah, hit me.
So one, I have a question for you. So in my current state of working entirely too much, I realize that I'm losing track of mundane details, much like Michael Bolton.
Sure.
And have you been watching, or were you at some point watching The Alienist on Plex?
No.
So, okay. I don't know why I thought maybe I saw that pop up at some point, and I meant to ask you. And now I realize that maybe I imagined that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with The Alienist?
Yeah, isn't that on Prime?
I mean, it might be. It aired on TNT.
Okay. I know of it.
Okay.
Is that the bad guy from Civil War? Is he in that?
Yes.
Okay. 3
leads. It's oh god, what is his name? He's got some German name that I'm totally drawing a blank on. But he plays Laszlo Kreisler, I believe, on the show. He's a German doctor who lives in New York City. Luke Evans plays a guy who I guess is kind of a private investigator, if I recall correctly. And Dakota Fanning plays someone who worked in the mayor's office, I believe. And it takes place, I think, around the turn of the century, 1900. Okay.
Daniel Bruhl?
That's his name. Yeah. And so the three of them all know each other. Luke Evans and Daniel Bruhl knew each other. Luke Evans and Dakota Fanning's characters knew each other. And the three of them all come together to hunt this serial killer in the first season. And
okay, I think I was intrigued by this when I first saw like a trailer for it.
Yeah, really solid first season. It was based on a book, I believe. One of the very few things on TNT that I ever had even the slightest bit of interest in. But it was a really solid first season. And as the last I remember hearing, they said they were going to just do a one-off or maybe possibly like look into doing some sort of like anthology series. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, lo and behold, commercial on TV, and it's people like, well, you know, they do the thing where like one like person like starts narrating a trailer, and then like the next person does, or like they overlay type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's Dakota Fanning. They flash Dakota Fanning. They flash Daniel Bruhl. They flash Luke Evans. I don't remember the exact order. And I was like, oh my god, are they doing the Alienists again? Mm-hmm. And it's the three of them, and they like fan out, and they're standing next to each other, and it's like, we're back, bitches. And I was like, they didn't actually say that, but that was essentially what this commercial was saying. And I was like,
nice.
Oh shit, I'm totally on board for some more Alienists. Why the hell not?
Yeah.
I don't even know what this new season's about. I don't care. There's missing children. Someone gets replaced with a doll or something like that. I'm on board. It was a good show. It was a fun, terribly dark and depressing show.
Oh, great. More of the type of media I need right now.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like, it's fine because it's not real.
Sure.
No, but it was a pretty well written show in the first season. Very well acted. I mean, those three actors are all very good. The couple of support characters are all good as well. Totally forgetting who. There's someone else who's like a character actor who's joining this season. I saw like flash briefly in the trailer. Oh, what's his name from Game of Thrones? The guy who played Roose Bolton.
Okay.
He seems to be in it. I'm sure he'll be someone nefarious because I think that's the only thing he can do.
That's his middle name.
I forget the actor's name. Wasn't he in The Foreigner with Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan?
I think so. Wasn't he one of the guys at the guard in the house at the end?
Yeah, he was like his right hand man, Pierce Brosnan's right hand man, or something like that.
I for the life of me, like while you were saying that, I was like, who was the bad guy in that movie? And then when you said it, I was like, right.
I just heard something recently. Oh, I was listening to Cinephobe, and they were talking about Tango and Cash. And
oh man!
See, I never saw it, but I've heard that it's a hysterical, like super 80s, like action comedy that's like so bad it's good type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I saw that movie way too long ago, way too young on TNT, and as a child watching it, I was like, this is weird.
So I listen daily to the Dan Lebitard show with Stugatz, and so they had Stugatz on to talk about just because Tango Cash is his favorite movie of all time. He talks about it all the time on the show. So
add it to the list. Let's do it.
What's that?
I said add it to the list. Let's do it.
I mean, okay. I mean, what the fuck not? I mean, it's not like we have anything else new other than that weird movie that we talked about last week. Unhinged? Was that what it was?
Yeah, we're not watching that.
No. So we're not going to watch anything new because there isn't nothing new other than that weird movie that definitely won't actually... maybe it will in Florida, and that'll officially...
God.
If you're wearing a mask in Florida, then I have all the pity in the world. I'm praying for you. Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Tango and Cash. So... They were talking about different castings that could have happened in that movie.
Okay.
So originally they wanted Mel Gibson for the Kurt Russell role, but he was already Lethal Weapon.
Sure.
And like they basically ripped off the character off that character.
Right.
They're talking about other people who could have been. So one of the ones they wanted to do was Patrick Swayze. And
natural.
Pierce Brosnan actually, but even back then was someone that was considered for that role.
Okay. I'm trying to remember. I'm getting random glimpses of this movie, and my head is spinning because I'm pretty sure it's just Coke. It's 80s Coke is what it is, right? I mean, but oh man, we have to do it.
I mean, I'm on board. We don't. Really have anything next week.
I haven't seen enough Patrick Swayze movies. I would really like to watch like Roadhouse and do that.
I've seen a random 15 minutes of the middle of Roadhouse.
We should watch Roadhouse, pretend to do an episode on it, and then it just be an episode on the Family Guy episode where Peter's kicking things.
Like the steering wheel as he takes the long way home.
Roadhouse. Roadhouse.
There's such a great scene early on in that episode too, where they talk about all the other random 80s movies, and I was like, man, I think I've seen every single one of them. Except
we gotta get on the 80s train. Actually, I don't know. While talking about decades, I guess that's how I'll do this. I came across this thing on Looper. It said great 90s movies that still hold up today. And I figured we'd go through the list together, see if we agree, disagree, or need to immediately call out any like noticeable absences from the list. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. So starting off, the cover images.
Wait, hang on a second. These are what sort of the movies that hold up, you said?
Great 90s movies that still hold up today.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So the cover of the article is The Matrix, and it's the first movie listed, which is, obviously, we did an episode on it. It's tremendous. It ages surprisingly well, and it's just, especially knowing where it came from, and the time that it came out and how revolutionary it was. Even though the special effects are not amazing by today's standards, it's funny to watch that movie and see how it is in everything we watch today. I think that's kind of cool. The second movie on the list, which I could not agree more, is 10 Things I Hate About You. And I don't know if have you seen this?
No.
Okay, 10 Things I Hate About You is, when you think about like those like high school, college like dramedies, 10 Things I Hate About You is the one that pops into my head. Like,
really?
Yeah, like did we ever do Can't Hardly Wait?
No.
That's another one. Like 10 Things I Hate About You
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Oh no! Oh well, one day we'll have to do this one because I love this movie, and when I saw it on this, I was like, 100% it holds up. It's so good, so good. I would argue I would have said Heath Ledger at his finest, but we all know where that is.
Is that the one that technically wasn't it like based on one of the Shakespeare plays or something like that? Which one is it?
I'm not sure which one, but yes,
doesn't matter.
The Taming of the Shrew, maybe?
Maybe.
It probably says in this article. Yeah, The Taming of the Shrew. 12 Monkeys.
The Bruce Willis movie?
Yeah, and I remember seeing it and thinking it was a really good movie, but I haven't seen it in a very long time.
I've heard it was good. I know they did a mini-series, like revival reboot a few years ago.
That's right.
From what I understand, the movie was supposed to be really good. I never saw it, though, so...
All right, well, we'll add that to the list, too. This is just a way to get 90s movies back on the list.
That one's supposed to be really dark, right?
I believe so. I vaguely remember the premise, and I remember I think it's a solid movie. Fight Club is on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have strong opinions on Fight Club?
I do. It's a very good movie that, unfortunately, also like The Matrix, many people don't actually understand it. Like, a lot of people who love it got the wrong message from it.
Sure. 7.
Yes.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. This one blew me away, and I was like, oh, man, here's one I need to rewatch. The Crow.
I never saw that one.
We should watch The Crow and talk about all of the craziness around that movie.
I'm going to have trouble taking it seriously in a post-Schitt's Creek world.
Oh, my God. Listen to our cause.
The crows have eyes, and you better not look them in it.
We have Romeo and Juliet, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
I watched like the first 15 minutes of it. I couldn't. It made me uncomfortable.
But John Leguizamo.
Goon?
Blade.
I don't remember the first one well. I've seen
me neither. I really want to watch it again.
A bunch of times, and for whatever reason, most of it doesn't resonate or stick with me at all. Like, the second one, I remember the whole movie.
Right.
I've seen both of them a bunch of times. I just remember, like, snippets of the first one, and for whatever reason, it just won't stick in my mind, much like for the longest time, the end of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, Blade, I'm with you on Blade. I remember loving it, and I'm the same way where, like, there are scenes that I remember.
Like, I remember the big battle at the end, and, like, that's about it.
I don't remember the second one that well either. I just haven't seen the movies in a long time.
No, I remember the second one very well.
Practical Magic, which I've never seen.
I have seen parts of it. My mom is a huge fan of it.
Okay. Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, classic, always.
Nice. Dazed and Confused.
I've never actually seen it.
That one, I'm very much ready to watch again. We should.
All right. We can.
Scream. You're ridiculous. I got you, but I just moved on. Scream, and the picture that they chose is tremendous.
Scream is good.
Jurassic Park? Did we ever do the original Jurassic Park?
I don't think so. We did Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom for sure.
Right, with Gianna.
Yes.
And Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which I
always forget is a 90s movie because it
it's like
feels like it's
92?
I think it's 92, but it feels like it's like it should be like 88 or something like that.
Well, that was the first one.
Oh, I thought it was...
Or 89.
I thought the first one was like 84?
Oh, is it? Oh, actually, you might be right. You might be right.
Which is why I think of the second one being late 80s, not early 90s.
84 is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was actually a pretty good list, considering I feel like a lot of the times I'll see those lists and I'll be like, immediately I'll be like, what about this? What about that? But
so they were like going for movies that were like actually good on that list.
Yeah.
So I would nominate The Usual Suspects. I would nominate American Beauty. I know people love Titanic. I have never actually watched it all the way through.
Really?
It was a landmark movie in its time. Philadelphia.
Didn't Forrest Gump come out? Yeah, Forrest Gump was a 90s movie. That should be on the list.
Doesn't hold up as well as other movies.
I think so. I watched it not that long ago, and I still... You know what it is? It's the goddamn score in that movie. It's you put that score over Tom Hanks, and just magic is happening on screen.
Great job by Hanks. Great score. It's kind of a cheesy movie.
Okay, that's fair. I'm taking a look at the list of just another random list at 90s movies to see what pops in. Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yeah, that one should be on there.
Let's see, what else? Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, of course. I have another one that will probably piss people off. Probably piss off people who listen to this show.
Hi, Mike. I said, hi, Mike. I just assumed you're talking about your cousin.
Yeah, Mike probably would be. Well, this isn't what I was going to go with, but him and or Dennis, if Dennis is listening, Mike's brother. Because they're huge. They're just as big a fan of the Kevin Smith as you are, but Clerks should probably be on that list, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, the thing is, my only issue, but I feel like I can't reasonably judge it because I love it too much. That I don't know if like my opinion of it is
no. But the thing is, that one, even for the people who haven't stayed on the Kevin Smith bandwagon, generally, objectively say that's a very good movie. What I was going to say though is Big Lebowski, for whatever reason, just does not click with me the way it seems to with most other people.
Same. I'm with you. It's not for me.
I don't get it. Like, it's fine.
It's fine is exactly how I would describe it. But it could be one of those things that for whatever reason, there are. I feel like this has come up between us, not as much as with like some of my other cousins that are like in the same age as you, but like there's a couple of year difference, and sometimes that makes a difference with how something was perceived by you, and like maybe we just missed it, you know?
I suppose so, except at least for me, specifically with this movie, like I feel like when I first saw it, I was the age that those people were when they saw it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Could be the time. I don't know. It could be whatever else is out, or like what your other influences are at the time.
Yeah,
but
Well, because sometimes
I'm with movies, you. It never really resonated with me. That I just was like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
There is such a rabid cult following of that movie that I've just never gotten. I was like, I remember watching it and I was like, so when's the part that it's gonna like blow me away? And it like never does. And I was like,
right. What about Face Off? Should that be on?
I've never seen it.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I've seen like a little bits and pieces of it.
Oh man, do we have something to watch? If you will have things to say.
Well, it's funny because I have two separate like reference points for Nicolas Cage stuff and John Travolta stuff because Cinephobe is obsessed with those two actors, so of course they're obsessed with that movie. Mm-hmm. But also, I was listening the other day to the Edward Norton episode of Armchair.
Okay.
And he was talking about Nicolas Cage and how important of an influence he was to the next generation of actors. And it's funny because there are 2 or 3 different Nicolas Cages, right? And when he was talking at first about him, he was talking about how, like, he was doing something that no one else was doing, and he took these big swings, and is really important, like, influential actor, and like that gets forgotten. I'm like, I mean, he's taking some fucking swings, and I was like, oh no. Like, look back at his actual, like, for 10 or 15 years, he was a legitimately really good actor, and then he became the Nicolas Cage that we know now. But I think people forget about that because I forgot. I'm like, what the fuck is Edward Norton talking about right now? And I was like, right. Oh yeah, no, like he was like nominated for multiple Oscars. Did he win one?
I'm not sure.
But I never saw Raising Arizona, but like that one is kind of a cultural touchstone. Vampire's Kiss, apparently, even though the movie is super fucking weird, is a big swing that some people really appreciate. Leaving Las Vegas, there's a bunch of Moonstruck. There's a bunch of movies that he performed quite ably in before he became do every single movie, regardless of how terrible it is, Nicolas Cage. Right. And play the camp to 15 out of 10.
I'm looking through his list to see if I could spot some of the earlier stuff. The list is in a very strange order, though. Sometimes IMDb just fails me.
It's almost always chronological.
Oh, hey, you know what it is? The list goes on so long is that I've jumped into the section called Self, and that's not where I want to be.
No, you don't want to be there.
I don't want to be in archive footage either. What is archive footage?
Like, if he's in a movie and then that movie is played in another movie.
Oh, okay.
Nicolas Cageception.
He's got a lot of producer credits.
I assume that most of these terrible movies he produces.
The Best of Times, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
He was in Fast Times?
Yes, and he's credited as Nicholas Coppola.
Because that's his name.
Mm-hmm. No, I know, but it's just, I remember watching it and being like, is that? And then seeing the credits and going, is that?
Now, is it Coppola or is it Coppola? Because while I know he's related to Francis Ford, I always feel like they always call him Coppola, not Coppola.
I don't know. That was just what came out.
No, I was just curious if I've been mispronouncing it this whole time.
How do you spell Francis Ford's last name?
I just said I'm 99% sure they're related. They spell the same way.
Oh, I was just making sure. You said you're 99. You said you were 99% sure. Yeah. I don't know. The 2 P's maybe say it that way, but I don't know. Valley Girl, Rumblefish, Racing with the Moon, Cotton Club, Birdie, Boy. He's got a lot of movies. Peggy Sue Got Married, Raising Arizona, and that's where you said you think this is where it starts to get big, right?
Yes.
Because Raising Arizona, Moonstruck, Vampire's Kiss, Never on Tuesday, Time to Kill, Wild at Heart, Firebirds. Let's see what else in here. Honeymoon in Vegas. That's when you talked about that one or no? I feel like you mentioned that.
No, Leaving Las Vegas. Isn't that it?
Oh, yes, that's a little bit later. The Rock. Oh, The Rock, Con Air. This is where it starts to get a little crazy. You know what it is? I think he got these big movies and he's like, this is fucking fun.
Well, yeah, because right after Leaving Las Vegas is when he became, like, action star Nicolas Cage. And even then, like, those movies are a little cheesy, but, like, they're fun. I don't begrudge him those movies. They're fun movies. They're big movies. They're Bay or Bay-adjacent movies. Like,
they are definitely Bay-adjacent.
The Rock,
Snake Eyes, 8mm, Gone in 60 Seconds.
I don't have the same appeal.
I know
that movie doesn't appeal to me the same way as it does other people, but I get why people like it. And, like, that's fine. Again, I don't begrudge him that movie.
Sure, I love that movie. National Treasure, which I adore.
Solid movie.
Ghost Rider. Is Ghost Rider where it officially goes downhill?
Well, it's immediately after National Treasure is where it goes downhill.
Okay. What about National Treasure Book of Secrets?
Yeah, like that's straddling the borderline.
Okay. Oh well, Kick-Ass. I forgot about him in Kick-Ass.
I never actually saw all that movie. I think I saw the first 20 minutes of it.
I like that movie.
I know a lot of people.
We could do that. He's pretty nuts in that movie. Yeah. Now we're in a list of movies that I've never heard of. Which, it's like when you're just churning movies out, like, I don't know, 15 movies a year, which is what it feels like based on this list.
Well, he has a lot of bills, so he has to pay them.
Sure. Oh, right. How can I forget Spider-Man Noir? I recently watched that again. My God, is that a good movie?
Yeah, and he's actually great as Spider Noir.
Yeah. Is it purple? No. Is it blue? No. When he's looking at the Rubik's Cube and John Mulaney's Peter Porker is just very disappointed that he can't figure out which colors it is.
The last movie that felt like he was trying was Lord of War.
Mm-hmm. I remember that one. Yeah. I could watch some wacky Nick Cage movies. It's always a good time. Al,
wait, I actually
you have a reading for me? Oh,
I have. We went on a wild tangent.
I don't even know how we got here.
It would be impossible to track the total genesis. I started with The Alienist, and it ended at Nicolas Cage's filmography.
As all conversations should.
All roads lead.
And then he was in Face Off and all went downhill. What are you talking about?
All roads lead to Nicolas Cage. Well, he has to have surpassed Kevin Bacon in 6 Degrees game, right? Just because of the sheer number of movies he's been in.
Man, I don't know. Kevin Bacon, he's all over the place. Let me see if I can get a number. Did they have a count of things that you've been in?
It's right next to the thing that they're in. It says whatever, like movie or actor or director or whatever, and then there's a parentheses and then there's a number.
That's probably I'm in the app, which is probably my fault.
Okay. Well, I thought they did it in that too, but not a big deal. So anyway, The Alienist comes out, I think, the 19th of July, which, truly a blessing and an oasis in this deserted time without new TV shows. The other thing that I forgot was coming out, but I just saw another teaser for it, so clearly they're planning on it coming out, which means they likely are done with it, is the second season of The Boys, which is due sometime in September. Right.
I never got to the first one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember you asked, me and Dominic about it.
Yeah.
I wrote a review on the Spin Tune about it. I enjoyed it. I actually avoided it for some time when it came out because I thought it was going to be too cynical, a cash grab type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least trying too hard. And I was very pleasantly surprised by it. I really enjoyed the first season. So I'm looking forward to the second season.
That's Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's on Prime.
Okay. Cool. I feel like it's probably something I would like. I'll have to give it a go. You are correct. Nicolas Cage has surpassed Kevin Bacon in credit number.
Yeah, he has 105.
105 to Kevin Bacon's 94.
Ooh, tight match.
Which is pretty wild.
There's a website that calculates the ideal degrees of separation for any two actors.
Okay.
And they always come in under 6. That's picked amazing. I don't remember what it was. I saw this several months ago. Maybe it was almost a year ago. I saw someone mention this website and I was like, oh wow, this is cool. I tried to pick 2 of the randomest, most obscure, it was separated by 100. I think Charlie Chaplin was one of them, and I picked someone totally random from present day. Okay. And it still was 4 degrees or something.
Amazing.
It's how?
Oh, that's so good. I have a general idea, and I'm assuming the person that it was back when we did this originally is still the same person that is at the top of the list right now. But back when we did the shit show, we used to be obsessed with the number of credits a person had, and like how like who, and we were trying to figure out like who's the most prolific person we could think of,
Typically,
and we would type their name
actors.
in. What's that?
Typically, it's voice actors.
That may be the case, but I remember I double checked to see if I was right. I remember who we found the highest number for way back then. I want to give you a couple guesses to come up with who do you think has the most, and I'll search them right now and see if like if you beat the one that I have in my back pocket, and if not, we'll give you 3 guesses, and if not, I'll pull up who I have here.
So my first best guess is Jim Cummings, I believe.
Jim.
He's done a million voice acting roles, including, like, I think his most popular one was, I believe he was Winnie the Pooh.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, that beats it for sure.
I had a feeling, because, like, voice
give
actors...
me another one. That one's 559 actor credits.
Yeah, I knew he was over 500.
That's amazing. Okay. Give me another one.
Shit, I'm trying to think.
559. Good for you, Jim.
I'm trying to think of who else would be anywhere like in like the several hundreds. I forgot the name. Is it James Hong or something like that? The old Chinese actor who's been in he's been in a million.
Yeah. No, you got it right, James Hong. I'm pretty sure that's him. Let me look up. Yeah, that's him.
He's been in a lot of like movies and voice roles.
Damn. 439.
Okay, I was saying he was a few hundred, but still can't hold a candle to.
Okay. What else you got? Who else you got? One more. So far, both the people you mentioned are above this person that I'm talking about.
Okay. And so that would probably have to be some sort of limit you would put on it. Is like, you have to probably be like 90% of their roles would have to be like live action or whatever.
Sure. Which this person might win for. So, okay.
So if I'm going to try and think of someone who I think would be like just regular, like not predominantly voice acting. I mean, Samuel L's got to be up there. There was that old Family Guy joke that Samuel L's in every single movie.
Well, that's where this conversation started. We just assumed for the longest time that it was him.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there.
He has 188 credits, which is still like that's insane.
So you found someone else who was predominantly a live action actor who was more than that?
Yeah. So let me see. This is the first person that dethroned him that we found was Christopher Lee.
Oh, yeah.
282.
See, I didn't realize it was that many. Now, he also, though, has as many live action roles.
Sure, there's a lot of video game roles.
He's done a million voice acting roles.
But that led us to. But he's also, yes. But that led us down the path of like who else is going to be on this list.
But he's also like 20 years older than Samuel L.
Sure. But then we came up with who we had as the crowning champion for a while, which was Danny Trejo.
Oh yeah,
who is credited in 383 things. We're just like, what in the world?
I'm actually surprised Nicolas Cage is only at 105.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But like he's in so much because he's in like random episodes of TV. And he's just like, he's constantly pulled into things. It's amazing. And I was like, is he the hardest working person in Hollywood? He might be. He's just like always there. He's always on screen.
It looks like it's Jim Cummings is the hardest working guy.
It seems that way. What was he? He was like knocking out 12 credits a day. It seemed like at some point.
Could you imagine? He's like, all right, here, we're going to do this one episode of Winnie the Pooh. While you're here, we got a couple other episodes of things. We were like, going to have just open casting, but you're here in the studio. You want to knock out a few more episodes?
Yeah,
give it to me, whatever. I already got the parking validated. Let's do it.
Amazing. Were there any other things that we should be watching or looking to watch?
There's something that I might dive into watching. I haven't watched it yet. My brother's been watching. I don't know if he's finished, but he's recommended highly recently Black Sails.
Oh, okay.
Remember that show from a few years ago?
Yeah, I know of it. I've never watched it.
I remember I was a little bit intrigued when it aired, and I just never got around to it.
You were like, I can do pirates.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. Because it aired concurrently with, I think it was only like 4 or 5 seasons long. It aired concurrently for a while with Game of Thrones. And the first time I saw a trailer for it, I thought that the lead was Ian Glenn, who was Sir Jorah Mormont on Game of Thrones, because he looks a little bit like him. And actually, it's the bad guy from Die Another Day, but with a beard. I don't remember the actor's name. I just remember.
I'm trying to picture his face
in Die Another Day, who was the genetically modified North Korean guy from the opening scene of the movie.
I feel like, is it possible that I've blocked out this movie?
I think his name is Toby Stevens or something like that.
Okay, I see him. I know it. Yes, I got you. I can see how you would confuse him with Jorah.
With the facial hair, like, you know, he like with a little bit of scruff. I was like, is that him? I was like, oh no, that's not him. But every time the commercial would come on,
what even happened in that James Bond movie? I don't even remember this.
They were trying to track down African conflict diamonds, and
which end up in Halle Berry's belly button at the end of the movie.
At the end of the movie, yes. Right. And they're
connected. Such a weird scene.
Yes,
very James Bond, very 90s James Bond, which was like, was that 2000 something at that point? 2002 maybe. 2002. Yeah. Wow. There it is.
With possibly the most egregious innuendo of the entire series, just in the sense of how blatantly obvious that the line was when the scene is like not zoomed in on them, and she's just saying, "Leave it in, James." Yeah. And then it pans out, and he had dropped one of the diamonds into her belly button.
Yeah. So it's so cringy. Oh boy! All right, so you're gonna try that one out?
If I ever get a spare minute to myself.
Nice.
But it was funny. You know, we talked about, and this will lead us in eventually to our talking of this movie if we ever have time to it. But
that's all for this week.
Yeah. So I told you last night I was going to watch the end of this movie because I started watching it Monday night, and that was Tuesday night. And that was a lie. So what happened was I was going to sit down and watch it. But instead I was like, oh, Gianna's around. Let's watch an episode of Scrubs together. Which turned into the family watching like 4 episodes of Scrubs. Which I'll never turn down a few episodes of Scrubs.
Sure.
I just will not. But it left me no time to watch the rest of this movie. And then this morning I was like, maybe I can try and watch it. Because it clicked in my mind that at the beginning of watching that movie, it said it was a Netflix production in conjunction with a bunch of Chinese studios. Like, I had no idea. So you watched it on Plex, right?
Yeah.
Well, I too started watching it on Plex, which is how I got the beautiful, beautiful gem. Thrilling music continues.
Yeah, beautiful.
So if you watch it on Netflix, it's dubbed in English.
Oh man, that would have been a game changer because there were things that I like. This it was running too fast by the screen.
Yes, just keeping track. Very different than watching something like Parasite, where there was enough time for most of this, like the lines to breathe. In this, there was no breathing. I was just like reading and like you got to be a speed reader. I was like, holy shit, I can't tell who's saying what. I lost track of the names. Like,
yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like I missed a lot of visual things because I was like just reading a book the whole time.
Yes, well, having those dubs made it easy for me to be able to watch the rest of that movie while I was getting ready for work this morning. But
nice.
Regardless, I digress. That's more for the movie thing at the end. You don't have any more news or nuggets?
No.
Okay. Well, I have one more, and we've been having a delightful time, and I'm going to put a damper on that right now because we're going to read some stuff that's real life here.
Okay.
We're all familiar with Thandie Newton. I know that Anthony is because I asked him if he was familiar with her right before we got started recording.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, she's currently on Westworld. She's one of the leads. She plays Maeve, one of the, I don't want to say, in case you have never picked up Westworld and decided to start watching it while you're at home during this pandemic. She was also in Mission Impossible 2. She was in Run, Fat Boy, Run with Simon Pegg and the guy from Shaun of the Dead who gets torn to pieces at the end. Spoiler alert. She is a pretty well-known actress. Pretty solid actress, at least from what I recall in the first season of Westworld. She did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
So there was an interview that came out yesterday. Not that that means anything to you when you're listening to this, because it would have been a few days ago. It was transcribed on Vulture. I don't know if that was the original. Sorry. This article was featured in One Great Story, New York's reading recommendation newsletter. In conversation with Thandie Newton, After decades on screen, nothing surprises the Westworld actress, though what she's ready to share will surprise you. And so the reason I bring this up is because, I mean, like a lot of people, we get caught up in these, well, how bad could it be? They're making a ton of money, blah, 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 et cetera, so on. But after a certain point in your life, you have to make a decision for yourself. And I can't tell you when that point is and what the decision that you're going to make is. But eventually you kind of have to believe that things are as bad as here. And so I find that putting a name and a face to it, especially someone who, I mean, I don't think anyone can ever really accuse her of ever been gone for like a cash grab. She's not someone who's been in a lot of blockbuster stuff outside of like Mission Impossible 2. So I'm just going to read some selections of stuff from this. Most of it will be kind of unbroken. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's rather long. But I am going to read a substantial amount of it because it's uncomfortable, and that's the only way that any of us will get any better. And this time right now, we're all home and we have time for it. So let's try and all just reflect.
Yeah.
As outspoken as Thandie Newton has been throughout her career, there are still stories she's been holding off on telling. Not because she's shy, but because she's waiting for the right moment. So careful what you do, everybody, she says, because you might find yourself fucking over a little brown girl at the beginning of her career when no one knows who she is and no one gives a fuck. She might turn out to be Thandie Newton. At 47, Newton feels she's more powerful than ever, which manifests in our Zoom conversations as a kind of stunning vulnerability. It's rare for an actress whose 30-plus career has ranged from odd art house films with Bernardo Bertolucci to blockbusters like Mission Impossible 2 to, well, Norbit, to speak so plainly. She's unsparing about her own career choices and yet maintains the wisdom and compassion to forgive herself. We got to press on, haven't we? So she has just gotten done working in Montana on a movie called God's Country. It's one of the most inspiring projects. I was loving it, but also willing its end because it was that demanding, and I'd come off of 12 months of pretty intense work with Westworld. In Westworld, your performance is so poignant, both ferocious and beautiful. Do you have conversations with the showrunners around the arc of the season or where you would like your character to go? I like to stay sane about my position, which is that I'm being employed to tell someone else's story, where I do have a degree of choices in taking the role, but once I'm in, I'm a team player. I do have frustrations with Maeve, but that's part of her storyline. What are some of those frustrations? Well, season 1, the evolution of this robot who then has the revelation that she's not human and that she has a past involved a child and the betrayal of that, and then using that information to empower herself. It was such a powerful story. I'm not surprised it hooked people in. And then the second and third season has Maeve with a different directive, but it's not her own. She's following other people's leads by and large. In the first season, she's driving, dominating, pretty straightforward. I think Maeve is a metaphor for the dispossessed in this world, and she's become that kind of leader. But she's not had a chance to lead. I don't think she necessarily should. She certainly doesn't want to. So then she goes on to talk about some of the issues that she had in her life growing up, in ballet and other dance, and how she very frequently was blowing everyone away and never got the recognition that she should have, because in her eyes, she was the only black girl in a very, very white organization of people. And that is what it is. There's, truth to that, I'm sure. However much so, as a young person, sometimes you don't feel that you're getting what you deserve. And so she goes on to say that this affected her. She had dealt with anorexia and all these things, and that it totally crushed her self-esteem and it made her susceptible to manipulation. And then I'll pick up again here. She said something about, I had complicated relationship with, and then she pauses and then she says, I let other people do the choosing for me. That saddens me. They said, what were you going to say? You had a complicated relationship with sexual relationships. It was like I had to give something back for being noticed. You get predators and sexual abusers that can smell it a mile off. It's like a shark smelling blood in the water. All you need is one of those to really drive you into the dust. In a way, an eating disorder was just like, okay, I need to finish myself off. I need to get fully rid of myself now. Unfortunately, that was while I was in an industry where a woman is utterly objectified. But a really key point, which began when I was like 21 and I met Eve Ensler, you saw the vagina monologues and then you talked to her afterward. She was performing in a pub in Islington in North London. Afterward, I saw her as she came into the pub and we chatted. I found myself telling her my story about being sexually abused. She didn't look at me with pity. For her, it was like, and you're here. It was the moment I turned from being a victim to a survivor. She just pointed out I was moving through it. When you've talked about what happened in the past, getting groomed and sexually abused as a teenager by the director John Dugan on the set of Flirting, I noticed the language used by some journalists writing about it was quite odd. Some would call it an affair. Yes, for years I would talk about it a lot in the press, as you know. I think it's because I was traumatized. If someone brought it up, and of course they're going to bring it up in a fucking interview, if they spoke about it in a way that's not sympathetic or they called it an affair, it was an insult to injury. It's like re-abuse. I think the reason I talked about it a lot too is I'm trying to find someone who understands. I'm looking for help. It's so fucking obvious to me. What is the point if we don't expose what needs to be exposed? When I look at my career and see how affected it was by my speaking out about sexual abuse in the industry, it massively affected it in two ways. One, I was dealing with my trauma and talking about it as a triggering environment. Also, I'd come across people that were doing the same shit, and so I would challenge them or want to get out of it or not want to work with people. One of the biggest movies I didn't end up doing was because the director said to me, I can't wait for this. The first shot's going to be, you're going to think it's like yellow lines down a road, and you pull back and you realize it's the stitching because the denim's so tight on your ass it's going to look like tarmac. I was like, oh, I don't think we're going to go down this road together. Then the head of the studio, I had a meeting with her, and she said, look, I don't mean to be politically incorrect, but the character is written and you playing the role, I just feel like we've got to make sure that's believable. I was like, what do you mean? What changes would you have to make? And she said, well, you know, the character is written. She's been to university and is educated. And I'm like, I've been to university. I went to Cambridge. She said, yeah, but you're different.
Jesus Christ.
She's like, maybe, well, just hang on. Wait till you hear who it is who's saying this. Because you'll recognize the name, I imagine. Maybe there could be a scene when you're in a bar and she gets up on a table and she starts shaking her booty. She's basically reeling off all these stereotypes to me of how to be more convincing as a black character. Everything she said, I was like, nah, I wouldn't do that. And she's like, yeah, but you're different. You're different. That was Amy Pascal. That's not really... She's the head of Sony, or was for quite a few years.
Okay.
She's produced all of those Spider-Man movies, a whole lot of other things as well. That's not really a surprise, is it? Let's face it, I didn't do the movie as a result. What was the movie? Charlie's Angels. I'm skipped to... That's not the only thing that happened. There's the disgusting thing that happened with the casting couch. Just this grossness. I've got my little black book, which will be published on my deathbed. Of names? Oh, of everything. Gotta leave something behind. I'm not doing it when I'm alive. I don't want to deal with all the fallout and everyone getting their side of the story. There is no side of the story when you're sexually abused. You give that up.
That's a great statement.
Yeah. Then she goes on to talk about some comparing and contrasting between her and Halle Berry, being that they were of a similar age, and like kind of the only two like black women actresses really working at that time. That they kind of were up for all the same roles, it seems.
Okay.
She goes on to talk about that movie Flirting. And then there was another piece of this, because what originally put me onto this was there was another snippet in here that I'm trying to find, because I didn't get down to this all the way. Oh, here you go. Here's another one. To switch gears slightly, I wanted to talk about Crash. Crash. That's got a chapter in my black book, I'm afraid. How the sexual assault scene got shot sounded dodgy, to say the least, and it was not clear to me what happened. I wanted to ask you what happened. I wouldn't say it was dodgy. It was certainly not from Paul Haggis's point of view. Everything he did was right on. The irony is that in the script, it wasn't specific what his hand was doing inside her skirt. It was just his hand goes up her skirt. And that's it. And then later in the scene, when he's screaming at her husband, she says, you just let him finger fuck your wife. I thought she was being ironic. I thought she was saying the worst thing she could imagine because she was trying to make a point to her husband. Because frankly, if I'd been finger fucked by a cop, I wouldn't even be able to talk. But we'd shot the argument scene already, so weeks later we came to shoot the scene, the last scene for me, the scene with the cop. At the beginning of that night, oh God, Paul Haggis got me and Matt Dillon together, and in front of Matt, he said to me, are you wearing protective underwear? And they're both looking at their feet, and I'm like, I'm just wearing underwear, yeah, why? Because I really want this to be as real as, I really want it to go there. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I just want Matt to feel like he can, and I realized what he was saying. I wasn't even thinking about the earlier scene that I'd said finger fuck. It wasn't until I saw the fucking movie, I'm like, oh, fucking hell.
Oh my God.
I mean, you hear these stories, and I just, I don't understand how there's even an argument and debate about some of these things.
Right.
And when you read it in someone's voice, I mean, you know, it's not just cold journalism. That's real hot, you know, a hot, warm-blooded person, whatever you want to say. Like, that's someone you can put a face to. Like, we've seen her in things, and whatever you think about her as an actress, and I think she's pretty good overall, but does it really matter? I mean,
no.
It's disgusting when you hear these things.
It really is.
And that there's people who like act like one of my favorite things to hear now is, you know, oh, she's just doing it for the attention. What positivity comes out of this attention?
Why would I do that?
You're not making money off this. She's not suing anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think Amy Pascal is going to be in any trouble? No one's going to give a fuck about what she's done. Paul Haggis, no one's said his name in 15 years.
Right.
So what does anyone get from this other than...
It's so disgusting.
So this was the last bit that I wanted to read, because this is the first thing I saw that I was just like, the pettiness that goes on, and you wonder why people keep their mouth shut and these things get perpetuated, is because, you know, between if anyone was going to be able to be defensive of a woman who's being abused, it would be another woman. And so that's the one thing that disgusts me, is seeing that sort of thing. Because if you're not going to have the allies of the men who are you would hope would be able to help you out, then you would hope it would be the one or two women in the business who would have that power. Mm-hmm. So she was on the show Rogue. Yeah, I didn't want to do it. It didn't make sense for the story with the two characters playing husband and wife who were kind of estranged. I was like, just doesn't make any sense to take it off. There was about a sex scene in this show Rogue.
Okay.
He goes, listen, kid, Thandie Newton, top off ratings. And I laughed. I was actually pretty grateful for the honesty. And I'm like, well, listen, then definitely fucking not. But he still got the other actor to pull my top down in the scene. And that's what's there.
Jesus.
And then we're shooting in Canada. I guess it's hard getting extras, people of color. And it was supposed to be set in Oakland. I'm continually saying you've got to populate this cast with more people of color. It doesn't make any sense. You can't get more fucking African-American than Oakland. And he said, but we cast you, so we took care of that.
Oh my God.
This is the producer.
Jesus.
That was in the second season. I thought, I can't do this. I just can't. We had this sort of sexist, casually racist idiot, you know, and I had an agreement at the beginning of the second season because I was pregnant with my last baby. I was going to be in my third trimester when I made the show, and I said, look, if you want me to do another season, I want to be released from my long-term 6-year contract if I come back. He refused to put it in writing, but agreed. And you know what happened? They got picked up for season 3, and I said, I want to go. And then, of course, they're like, you can't. He had a gentleman's agreement with my agent, and it was all very respectful, apparently. And I went through fucking hell because he hadn't told my dear friend, who was the writer of the show. So I ended up losing his friendship, too, because he assumed I was just going. I don't want to do it. Obviously, I did get out of it. I just had to do a few episodes, which wasn't easy. Everyone hated me for leaving, but no one knew of the agreement a year before. It was extremely painful. I actually thought I might retire then because I had my baby and my husband's career was doing great. Then Westworld was sent to me, and if it hadn't been for Rogue, I wouldn't have wanted Westworld so much. But I'll tell you, this is so hideous. On the last days of doing Rogue, I got killed miserably. I get dumped in a laundry container by this nasty guy who's a great actor. I get taken down to the bowels of the hotel where he had this huge fight where he strangles me to death, and then I get dumped in this garbage disposal tank, and the last shot of me is sinking down into the garbage, like into sewage. But listen to this. On the side of the garbage disposal tanks, it says, Westworld Garbage Disposal. They all knew I was going on to do Westworld because I'd already signed up to do it.
Oh my God.
I had put 2 years of hard work into that show, and there I was, Westworld Garbage Disposal. And so you wonder every time you hear these stories about institutions abusing people and people telling you that they've been abused in these institutions. And, you know, our reflexive inclination is we have our attachments to them, whichever attachments they be for whatever institutions. How many stories is enough to start to believe these people when these things go as they are?
Right.
And that's where I am in my life now.
Yeah. I'm like past the point of like I don't. I feel like it's obvious that like these are real stories. I just like how do we fix this?
Well, and this is the thing in and all of these things that are going on right now in this world, as our wonderful country burns, and we realize that maybe it wasn't so wonderful as we thought. And before anyone jumps down my throat for that, I still do believe this is the greatest country in the world. There's not a single place I'd rather live than here. Mm-hmm. But something can be the best, but it can still be far from perfect. And the only way we fix these things is to listen.
Yeah.
And you listen and you listen and you listen, because there's a lot of people in a lot of different places of a lot of different types and races and genders and creeds who are crying out in pain, who haven't been listened to. And so you can listen for the first time, or maybe you've been listening and listen some more, and that's great. You don't have to end up agreeing with all of it, but without listening, none of it ever will change.
But what do you do about people in power that aren't listening / don't care?
Well, we have to begin the wheels, I guess, to remove those people in whatever place they are. And the thing is, if you listen, if I listen, if the people listening to us choose to listen, and something, again, it doesn't have to be all of it. You don't have to agree with all of it. You don't. Not everything you hear when you decide to finally open up and listen is going to be, quote unquote, correct or right. It won't be. But if enough people are saying it, and it's from a place of sincere pain in this case, there's something that's going to resonate with you eventually. Mm-hmm. And if everyone listens and you choose what you're going to stand for and what you're not going to stand for anymore, eventually you can put pressure on people to change their ways. They may not change their minds, but they're going to have to change their ways if they want to continue to live in this society. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it. It's happening in some places. It's not going to go away tomorrow or next week or next month, next year.
I think that is probably the one of the difficult things is, I mean, like it's silly, right? Like for us, like I don't know, like we you and I don't personally have much to deal with, if anything, and we have nothing in the vein of what's actually going on in the world, except for doing the listening and being and understanding and maybe shutting down people that are saying otherwise, because that's the only thing that we can do.
Well, that's what it is, right? Is going from the point of, I guess, the step that we can all make. If you don't think you're a bad person, if you think you're a good person, you think that you largely do things right. It's not enough maybe then with what's going on to just get out of the way and not be bad. Mm-hmm. I guess we all have to take a more proactive role in being actively good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I was having this conversation the other day of I won't get into the specifics, but it came down to like my unloading moment was, I just don't understand that if somebody is telling you that they are uncomfortable or do not like what you are saying, why would you continue to say it to them? Why wouldn't you instead have a morsel of empathy and apologize? It takes a big. It shouldn't take a big person to apologize. That should be the norm. If you are doing something that somebody's uncomfortable with and they've expressed to you that they're uncomfortable with it, you should apologize and try to understand what you did wrong.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I would like to say that every one of those conversations could go with, you say thing that upsets me, I say, please don't say that it upsets me. Mm-hmm. And then you would say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it would upset you. Why? And then I would tell you why. But sometimes the person's not in a position to be able to explain that. Sometimes it's so
honestly,
upsetting.
I think that's actually part of the thing that I'm getting at is like, I don't need to like, I would prefer to understand the why, but I should just be understanding that it's upsetting to you.
Sure, and that's what I'm saying. At bare minimum, quote unquote worst case, simply to be able to say, I didn't realize that, I won't do it again, and that can be enough. You don't have to understand; just know not to do it again.
Yeah,
and that can be the end of it. But if the person is in a place to be able to explain it, actively seek that understanding out. And, where it comes to stuff like that, saying things to people, about people, whatever, that, they don't like, is it really that hard to not do it?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I've kind of come to with some of these things. Whether or not you choose to quote unquote support someone for what they're doing or how they feel about a thing, what are you getting out of it to continue to do the thing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it that much of an imposition to just not do the thing?
Right.
And then I think you'll figure out after about a week or so, yeah, I'm not really missing anything in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the biggest thing is like it's so like why are you being a dick? This doesn't concern you. This doesn't affect you. Like why? Is it because you want to be involved, even if it's in a negative light? Like what is like you need? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean I imagine that's it for some people. But
I'm gonna just tell a quick story. I'm not gonna no names are gonna come into this. A friend of mine moved away and decided that they wanted to go by a different name, and we were having a conversation, and they explained it to me, and I was like, okay, and like I could do that, but I was immediately over like it's fine by me. I was immediately overwhelmed with, you're gonna catch shit for this for no reason,
yeah,
right? Like this is just a decision that you're making that you would like to be the way it is, and like. I'm happy to accept it, and honestly, if I didn't, it didn't matter, right? Like this is you asked me to respect a decision that you're making that in no way affects me.
That's what it comes to. What I was getting to, right? Is what are you getting out of
right?
Not doing what they've asked,
right?
What positive is happening in your life to not accept it,
right? And what I was like, and it's silly. Like I knew them by the other name, and I have occasionally slipped up and immediately correct myself when I realize it.
And that's all it takes.
It seems that the effort is recognized and appreciated, and it's like that's really all. That's what would actually happen.
It's only natural, because I see that hypothetical thrown out all the time. Oh, what if I call someone like that? I'm gonna get canceled. I'm like, first of all, you gotta be fucking famous to get canceled. Regular people don't get canceled,
right?
Unless you're actively being a dick,
sure,
or criminally, whatever, abusing people. You don't get canceled if you're a regular person. But furthermore, in the very limited exposure to those situations that I've been in myself or witnessed myself, if you make an honest to God mistake and then immediately correct it, you're not going to get in any trouble. It's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just make the effort.
Yeah.
It's because it's a bare minimum of effort. What is it? It's affecting what, like 3 breaths, like in your life? Like that's about it, probably. A couple of seconds of your time to just simply do your best. And if, like you said, someone you've known for a long time, muscle memory, it's going to happen. You've called that person something, all the time. It'd be, let's say, for instance, tomorrow you said you no longer wanted to be called Anthony. You wanted to just be called Jeff. I'm probably going to forget you want to be called Jeff. I'm gonna, because I've known you for the 29 years of my life.
Oh, sure.
And then I'll apologize and I'll call you Jeff, and it'll be over.
And that'll be it. That'll be the end of it.
Lower,
and that's how
lower stakes than most of the situations we're talking about.
Sure.
But I think it's a helpful hypothetical in this case.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. It's just, I thought about that a lot that day afterwards. And I was like,
oh, that's all it took.
It's no problem. No. It's like, I'm not concerned with how I'm responding to it. I'm going to do what was requested of me, because again, even if it did take a little bit of effort, it doesn't take any effort except for maybe remembering one word instead of another, which is like really it's no effort.
Oh no! I update the contact in my phone.
But what it bothered me for the rest of the day, and it pops into my head here, and I just kept thinking about like I'm already furious at the people that aren't going to respect this.
Yeah.
And that bothered me, yeah. And it does. And it bothers me more when I slip up that I'm like, I want you to really know that I'm trying, because it does happen occasionally. I think I've gotten pretty good at it now. But it's just like, like, and I say we all need to exhibit. All you need to do is exhibit a little empathy, and I'm saying empathy specifically, not sympathy. I'm saying empathy, like that means it might not mean saying anything. It might mean shutting the fuck up for a second and thinking about it and trying to understand how somebody else is feeling and be with that feeling for a minute.
Yeah,
and then realize how
in this case, like the barest bit of empathy is you don't have to understand how they're feeling. Just understand that they're feeling.
Right.
And modify your behavior 0.1%.
in the appropriate direction.
Yeah.
Change bearing. Be better.
Well, I think that was all pretty important.
I agree.
We walked the line into a little bit like dark, scary stuff.
We should cut it out into its own show. Put it ahead of this.
Maybe. You want to bring things back with some fun and games?
Yeah. You know what? Let's do it. And not to diminish this. And it's like, honestly, if you're uncomfortable, maybe pause and just fucking sit with that for a minute. You know, and just deal.
And also,
because in the grand scheme of things, us being uncomfortable about it is not even remotely close to what other people are dealing.
And I think, those changes don't happen overnight, and that's okay. Like I try not to judge people who are trying. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just asking the question, like, "Hey, I don't get this."
Mm-hmm.
That's all it takes, because you're going to get there eventually, and it might not be tomorrow or next week or next month. Like, but the fact that you're willing to try means two things: one, that you're going to get it to whatever extent eventually, and two, again, whether you're famous or not famous, you're not going to get canceled for trying. Like, you just try, and you're going to realize at the end of that process, you'll be a better person, and the people around you will be better off, and it won't have required anything major of you other than maybe you're sitting on the train and just sat and thought about it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Be better. That's going to be the method of that's going to be the motto of this show. That's how we'll sign off. Let's sign off like that from now on. Hey.
That's a little bit judgy.
Be better. No, I'll say it to you. You say it to me.
I'm Anthony Costanzo. Al,
be better.
And I'm Al Beyonce. Anthony, you also be better.
Sounds good. All right, Leah, let's do it. Let's get into some fun games. Let's bring it in. It's not a fun topic, but it could be a fun quiz. I didn't read the questions, but I think it's 10.
It's just games.
What are your chances of survival during an apocalypse?
Oh,
boy. You ready for this?
Sure, why not?
All right. It's a sunny day in Boston, and you're walking along the Freedom Trail when you see a man lying on the ground. It looks like his jaw has rotted away, but he's managed to make some weird sounds. What do? I'd ask if he needs help, but he has no jaw to talk. I'll call an ambulance. Walk along. I'll have to see Quincy Market. Check the news to see if there are any jaw-rotting viruses going on. Am I safe?
I guess call an ambulance.
Okay, fair enough. After you've asked him what to do and went, oh, you can't answer that. You look at your phone to check social media, and there are reports of people in New York City with more body-rotting symptoms. It doesn't look like anyone else in Boston has been infected yet. What do you plan to do? Head to South Station to take the next train to New York. I have to save these people. Walk to North Station and take the train to Maine. I'll be safe from these weird diseases there. Go have a drink near Fenway. The Red Sox are playing tonight. I don't know why this is so Boston-centric, but we're going with it.
I hate the Red Sox, so it's not going to be that one. I guess I'm probably head off to Maine.
Okay.
We're going to head off to the pub, have a pint, and wait for this all to blow over.
Just as you're about to move on from the jawless man, the ambulance arrives. As a thank you, the EMT officer offers to bring you to lunch. Where do you tell him to go?
What?
Bo Loco on Federal Street? They never had an E. coli problem. As I said, I haven't been to Quincy Market yet. I heard they have lots of food. The food truck's near South Station. I'm not sure if I want tacos or Vietnamese street food. I'm not hungry, but I'll have him drop me off at Whole Foods. I can stock up on nuts. What are you, a squirrel?
I hate all these options. Why am I letting the EMT take me to lunch?
I don't know, but Bo Loco is a great option.
Well, I guess go with that one then.
Okay.
I don't.
They have a buffalo chicken burrito that is amazing.
I already know that this story ends up with me sitting in the back of the ambulance and getting attacked by this jawless man. I don't understand why I've made this decision.
That's question number 4. During the ride over, you ask the EMT what's going on. He tells you there's a flesh-eating bacteria that turns its victims into zombies, and there's no known cure. You obviously have tons of questions. What's the first thing you ask?
Jump out of the moving vehicle.
What's going to happen to Jawless Man? Are you going to kill him? How does the bacteria spread? Alas, it seems the apocalypse is here. Do you want me to survive? Do you want to be my survival buddy? I'm single. Am I going to die? Actually, can you take me to Massachusetts Institute of Technology instead? I want to see if they're developing a cure.
How many options was that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5? Could you run through them again? Because
sure.
I was a little confused as to where the separation.
I'll try to pause. I'll try to pause longer. Option number 1: what's going to happen to Jawless Man? Are you going to kill him? Option number 2: how does the bacteria spread? Option number 3: alas, it seems the apocalypse is here. Do you want to be my survival buddy? I'm single. Option number 4: am I going to die? Option number 5: actually, can you take me to Massachusetts Institute of Technology instead? I want to see if they're developing a cure.
I'm going to go with 2.
Okay. Just give me more information about this ridiculous thing that's happening. Before the EMT can answer your question, the Jawless Man wakes up and attacks. How do you defend yourself?
You remember how before question 4, I said this is exactly what was going to happen?
Yeah. Option 1, grab the nearest blunt object and whack him over the head. Option 2, shout at the driver to stop the vehicle and head toward the door. Option 3, go through the medical kit on the ambulance and throw whatever chemicals you find at him.
I'm going to go with option 1, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen enough zombie movies. We know where this is going. Question number 6. After you've escaped the ambulance, you decide you need to get out of the city now. What kind of wheels would you like to steal? And then we just have a picture. We have a couple of pictures. We have a bicycle. We have what looks to be an electric BMW. We have a Mitsubishi pickup truck. And just an old beat-up buggy.
This is one of those cheap horror movies because I didn't realize that Mitsubishi makes a pickup truck. So this is one of those ones.
And neither did I.
Country. Was the BMW? Was it like the i8 or?
I think so.
Like the sports car one with like the gullwing doors.
It's from the front. It's hard. It's kind of hard to figure out, but I think that's what's going on here.
The one for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Sure. That's what it is. Let's just say that's what it is.
Then I'll go with that car. Then why not?
Okay. Cool. I was going to go with the bike on account of gas.
But it's electric, so there's no gas.
No, on account of running out of gas of electricity is what I was going to say there.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. It's doing one of those weird quiz things where I click the thing and it scrolls to the top. You know how websites work. Continue the quiz. Question number 7. And you're off. You're just outside the city and you find a suitcase on the side of the road. You investigate and find a bunch of weapons, but you only have room for one. What's your tool of defense? Nunchucks? What looks to be a broadsword? A baseball bat? Or it's like a handheld crossbow. Like it's not like a real crossbow. It looks like a gun, like a handgun with a crossbow.
Challenge. It's a suitcase. I can carry the suitcase.
Also, how is this broadsword in the suitcase?
Also a great question. I'm going to go with the suitcase, I suppose. I'm going to go with the broadsword, I suppose.
Okay. That seems fair. It looks like the virus has spread far into New England. Cars have been abandoned off the interstate, and there's not a soul in sight. But there is a gas station. You decide to loot it. What's the one thing you don't leave without?
Wait, now I'm a looter?
Now you're looting. These are some interesting options. Iced coffee, M&Ms, bottle of water, beef jerky. The one thing you don't leave without. There's only one correct answer here.
I was going to say beef jerky.
No. The bottle of water. You can go longer without the food. You need the water. All right, beef jerky.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll be able to find water somewhere in New England.
You got everything you needed from the gas station. As you depart, you notice a horde of zombies gathered around a body near a dumpster. What do? Option 1, approach them and figure out what's so exciting about the body. Option 2, silently get into a vehicle and drive off as quickly as possible. Option 3, attack the zombie squad.
I'm going to quietly leave.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you're going to go to the group and be like, what's going on, guys?
It's just like that thing where you put your arms up around everyone's shoulders and you like peek over.
Yeah.
What's going on over
there? Where they think they're looking at your dead body?
Yeah.
Question 10. You're 10 miles outside of the gas station and come across a group of uninfected humans. They look safe and you decide to talk to them. It turns out they're scientists from Harvard and MIT and gave up on finding a cure to the zombie disease. What do you say? Option 1. Ask them why they would quit. The carelessness led to this. Option 2. Ask if I could stay with them. We can survive this apocalypse together. Option 3. Wish them luck in surviving this mess. I don't trust other humans.
I'm going to go with option 4. Dudes, it's a bacteria. I'm sure we can come up with an antibiotic. No, I'm going to do the first one. Ask them why they gave up.
Okay. Oh, I thought this was only 10 questions. After 2 days, you and the scientists decide to move on. One of the MIT students plans to go to LL Bean to find some camping gear. You want to go with him. What's your survival item of choice? A mosquito-proof tent, a fur-lined parka, a travel mug, an AM/FM radio.
I'm going to go with the parka. It gets cold in New England in the winter.
That seems like a good option. For some reason, your phone... For some reason, this is great. They realized during this question, I guess we have to pepper in that this is just the situation. For some reason, your phone has still worked throughout the apocalypse. You look at your news app and find that the zombie vaccine has been developed. Do you get yourself protected? Of course. No, I don't trust vaccines.
Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. Because I am staunchly anti-vaxxer.
Rather than say pro.
Yes. I am pro-vaccine, but okay. I'm even more anti-vax.
Got it.
But the problem is, I've seen I Am Legend.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's a good question.
I wouldn't be an early adopter of this vaccine.
Sure.
Either.
You're going to hold back? Secret option number 3, hold back?
Yeah.
See how this plays out?
Wait a week or...
Okay, I'm just going to say of course.
Okay. Wait.
No?
I don't know. I don't feel safe.
I feel like this is the game-breaking thing of whether or not you survive.
I know. This is a trick question. I feel like I'm being trapped. I feel like Vizzini in The Princess Bride. You know, on the one
so hand, there's no way that I can pick the glass in front of me.
Yes. If I don't take the vaccine, I'm going to walk outside the room and I'm going to immediately get bit by a zombie. So, which is why I clearly can't choose to not take the vaccine. But if I take the vaccine, it's going to turn.
Don't you see?
It's going to be one of those twists where the vaccine wasn't properly developed and I turn into an even more super zombie now. This is why I clearly can't take the option of getting the vaccine.
Are you quite so you've made your decision? Not even remotely.
You're
all right, what are you gonna go with?
You don't even like to think that's it. Yeah, give me the vaccine.
Okay. Last question. How would you rate this quiz? I loved it. It was pretty okay. Not great.
I'm gonna, despite my misgivings about some of it, I'm gonna go with I loved it because it was entertaining.
It was fun. All right, here we go. I'm going to hit the show me my results button, which then brings up a loading screen that, as an engineer, I know is unnecessary. And wait for it to show. Here we go. As far as ambiguous quizzes go, you won. Let's put it that way. Because it says you're responsible for the survival of the human race.
Fuck yeah!
You don't remember how long it's been since the initial zombie outbreak, but you are one of the last humans on Earth. Fortunately, the zombies have all died for good, but you're left with 5 other people to rebuild the human race.
Okay.
Oh, can you do us a favor and please make sure that coffee is still around? That would be great.
I mean, obviously, if anyone knows anything about me, they know how much I love coffee. So I will, after doing my due diligence and doing my moral responsibility to the human race, I will send all of my efforts into repopulating, and then I will become a coffee farmer.
sounds good. I thought it was 10 questions because before I scrolled the page rapidly and just like tapped things to see like how quickly it would go through them. to make sure that the quiz actually worked. And my main goal was to see if at the end there was something fun that it tells you, because I hate when we do the quiz and it's just a result.
Yeah.
So I was rapidly clicking through it, and I hit calculate my results, and it says you make it 6 days. I thought that was pretty great.
See, I thought they trapped me with the vaccine.
Yeah, it turned out
I made the right choices. I mean, generally speaking, isolationist is the way to go in these things, I think.
I mean, based on present times. But based on what was saying there, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the vaccine didn't work if it's just you and 5 other people.
No, the 5 of us, the 6 of us got the vaccine.
You're the only ones that got it, and they're like, wow, everybody else thought this was a prank.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Everyone else was afraid of that whole, you're going to get
it was 4 scientists, and you showed up, and they were like, all right.
Yeah, what they didn't mention was that I stumbled on the 5 scientists, and they were all women, so they needed to make sure they kept me alive.
Oh my God.
That we could preserve humanity. Like I said, I will do whatever it takes to repopulate the...
And then at the end, we find out that you're infertile, and the human race just dies off.
Guys, I tried.
It was the damn beef jerky from the gas station. You fell on that broadsword and severed something.
Oh.
All right, let's get into our flick of the week. The Wandering Earth, released in 2019 with 2 hour and 5 minute runtime. Here's your IMDb synopsis. As the sun is dying out, people all around the world build giant planet thrusters to move Earth out of its orbit and sail Earth to a new star system. Yet, the 2,500-year journey comes with unexpected dangers. And in order to save humanity, a group of young people in this age of a wandering Earth fight hard for the survival of humankind. That was probably the lengthiest IMDb synopsis we've had in a while.
In a while, yeah.
And probably the most apt. You know what? I'm not going to say anything. Let's do true length reviews.
Okay, I guess I'll kick us off. After the initial disorienting shock of watching something with foreign sensibilities, you settle into a very enjoyable, if totally bonkers action flick that could have been made anywhere. 7 out of 10.
Okay. I said The Wandering Earth is completely bonkers and a bit too all over the place. However, it makes up for some of these issues with intermittent moments of intense emotion and some bizarre action sequences. 6 out of 10.
So pretty similar.
We're close. I'm sure we'll be a lot going through. There is definitely the getting oriented with just a different culture of movie making.
Yeah, just their whole like house style is a little different. It's funny though because the set design actually, at least for all the interior stuff, I felt like that could have been any action movie, like even in the American one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which that's the one thing that I tend to expect to be lesser in movies like that. And lesser's probably not even fair, but just like dramatically different, I'll say. Right. And I thought it looked really good and it felt right to like what it was trying to do. Some of the outside sequences were a little bit different. I mean, I think the way they went full CGI for a lot of it, that's more where it shows that like this.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that. It is. I just scrolled down real quick to see the budget. $48 million budget.
That's it.
Opening weekend, $180 million.
Well, that's not surprising because it was like an event. It was like equivalent to like a Star Wars or an Avengers like movie, like opening.
Gotcha.
Like,
and the worldwide gross was $699 million, so almost $700 million.
I'm surprised the budget was that low. I mean, I know with Chinese companies they can kind of play fast and loose with math, unfortunately. So it could have been more, and that just makes it like look better. I'm guessing the global receipts are probably pretty accurate. Their domestic receipts are probably somewhat close to the right answer, but again, they can kind of play with that sort of thing. But still, I mean, that's a hell of an achievement.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, there's very few practical setups in the movie and a lot of them look like they are repurposed from previous scenes, which is good production design. But there's a lot of CG. and sometimes to the detriment of what's going on around.
Some of it looked great, some of it less so.
Yeah. You could sell like the parts where they like really focused on the budget, and then the parts where they were just like where it was like added in.
Yeah,
but it's a ride. It's a wild ride. I want to dive back into that synopsis for a second though. It says yet the 25. Sorry. Giant planet thrusters move Earth out of orbit. Yet the 2,500-year journey comes with unexpected dangers. No shit. Because when the movie started off and they said it, I was like, that's a funny concept. What about the everything about it? And then
some of it they gave us way too much explanation on, and some of it not nearly enough.
But like to my surprise, and maybe I didn't know what I was asking for, and I was sorely mistaken. They dive into it a couple of times. I'm like, oh god, it really was as bad as it looked. I was like, wouldn't you take the 100 years to build a bigger ship? Like something stable that can deal with the situation rather than hurtling this rock out of the solar system. But hey, to each his own.
I don't know. I mean, there's probably no ship you can build to shuttle billions of people.
Well, it's half the world's population because half died anyway.
But it's still 3.5 billion people.
Sure. Well, I don't know. All that time, if they were able to build, I feel like they could have built something. I feel like they could have built multiple ships.
Well, the other thing, though, was, remember, they weren't just using the Earth as a ship.
It was the rock fuel.
And pushing it over there. And so part of that is we're going to set up shop around another sun, and that is business as usual, baby. Mm-hmm. We don't need to adapt to a new planet. We brought ours from home.
Right. What's up?
Because that's the problem with, creating some giant arc and leaving is you have to adapt to a new planet, which has its own set of circumstances. One, you can have your long-range scanners, look for a planet that seems suitable, but it might not be. You have to terraform that planet if it doesn't already have life of its own. If it has life of its own, you might be allergic to all of that life and immediately all die of anaphylactic shock. You have to deal with microbial life that has adapted in an entirely different atmosphere than yours and will rage through you like a plague, much like the coronavirus.
I feel like they should have built the Titan project, though. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Which kind of, it sounded like, was what the deal with the lead ship was to some
kind of. That was more, the lead ship was more Interstellar's Plan B.
Yeah, well, it kind of felt like it was halfway between, because it couldn't create a planet like the Titan could, but it was more robust than the...
What, with the library and all. Right.
Yeah, than the Interstellar one was. So
I will say I do love a humankind tries to survive movie.
Yeah. I will say, going back though for a second to what you were saying about some explanation. I feel like what the Wandering Earth project was pretty well laid out.
Sure.
What all of the engines were and how they were, what they were supposed to do and what the timeline on that all was, a little bit less so. Yeah. I didn't even know. Now, I don't know if this was something I missed early on or if it wasn't revealed, which I think it was. They kept talking about the torque engines, and I was like, not super sure what those do until the very end of the movie when they bookended the movie with like the narration of what the Wandering Earth project was, which I thought was actually really cool. But at the end is when they said, "Oh, we built these gigantic torque engines on the equator to stop the spin of the Earth," and I was like, "Oh, that's what those are for."
Right.
Because I was wondering the whole time.
They did talk about that very early on. The torque engines were fired up to stop the spinning of the Earth first, which is what caused the ridiculous number of tsunamis, which then wiped out half of the population.
So I remember them saying that at the end. I don't remember that early on in the movie. I'm not sure why I missed that. I must have just been in that fucking text sprint.
It was that paragraph that ran along the bottom of the screen. It was ridiculous. Alongside of thrilling music.
Yeah, well, was it the thrilling music or the thrilling music that continued?
Thrilling Music Continues is great. I also I had
a lot of options for things to like enter in with, and like some that I actually think were ultimately funnier. I was like, no, I gotta stick to my guns and go with Thrilling Music Continues.
Yeah,
and I was just hoping that you saw that too.
100%. Between it's funny because there was that and Thrilling Music. The Continues that shows up was really the best part about that. But like, I didn't turn after it was over. I went to bed, and today I put something on, and the subtitles were still on because like the setting on the Roku, it stays on like until if you turn it on, like for whatever other apps you're using, you just have to turn it off. And something else came on with music, and it's like it was just like 3 quarter notes as the subtitle, and I was like, step your game up. What are you doing? Thrilling music.
I need to know what sort of music is it. Is it contemplative music? Is it ominous music?
Ominous music
is it dark ominous tones?
On the topic of music, though, an awesome score really goes a long way.
Yeah.
And the music in the movie is pretty solid.
Yeah.
They do a tremendous work with violins. And I was like, I like there were ridiculous things happening on screen. I was like, this is absurd, but I'm digging the pace. This is great.
and to that point, if we're going to talk about score as part of the whole movie and
sure,
the positives of this movie, but don't require spoilers. This movie had more heart to it than I was expecting. Like a lot more than
that. And exactly in my tweet life review, the weird thing about the heart is that it is just dropped in here. But what it is, it's to tremendous effect.
A little bit sudden at times, but far deeper than a lot of American action contemporaries. You know what I mean? There's a lot of action movies that you don't have to ever like contemplate your place in the world and life and all that, and have even a measure of feel like empathy for what's going on with the character. It's a pretty good amount. I mean, there was loss, there was struggle and strife and
family and community.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. I'm just gonna leave that there until we get into the spoiler territory. The movie plays this. I had said in my tweet link there that it was like a little. It's like all over the place, right? It seems very sporadic. I feel like the movie is just like a series of levels in a video game that end in either a boss battle or a puzzle. And and they're just stacked because the movie does go like it is. It's just like we're doing this thing now. We're doing this thing. We're doing 2001: Space Odyssey. We're doing it just bounces all over the place.
There was even a water level.
It was there was a water level. There was Interstellar. There was Independence Day. There was everything. It had
it did feel like it skewed like a 3-act structure for more of like a vignette thing where it's like, okay, here's chapter 1, here's chapter 2, here's more linear than something than like a Kill Bill or, well, really any Tarantino movie for that matter. But it did feel like it was, it was broken up into more almost like episodes of a TV show.
Mm-hmm. But like cue the whacked elevator scene, like, and then that's what we're doing right now. Also, without going into specifics, man, people get killed off left and right in this movie at the weirdest times, and you're never ready for it because there's no way to prepare.
Well, I think that gets more to what I was saying about skewing the 3-act structure, right? Because you would expect maybe a major death right in the middle of Act 2 or something like that, or transition Act 2 to Act 3, and they just refuse to adhere to that, which honestly is kind of refreshing. I don't understand why so many movies have to be told in that way, and why it's so such a rebellious thing to do otherwise. It's like we are capable of more than that. We're capable of better than that, and it's not just playing to the cheap suits. Like
it's just what we're used to, and I feel like what happens is because we're so used to that 3-act structure. When you go to something like this. There was definitely times where I was like, where am I in this movie? It was a question that I had numerous times, and I was like, I have to run to the bathroom, and I hit pause, and I went, 40 minutes? I was like, where is this going to
go? See, I view it as very refreshing most of the time when it happens, because we watch so many movies.
Yeah.
it's honestly a drag when it feels like I can tell. I mean, I talk about it all the time on this show. Mm-hmm. How often I'm like, well, I know exactly how this is going to happen. Like, and I end up getting it like 95% right. And that even comes down to like the timing and pacing. You can almost figure out when these things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have that expectation.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying it as a bad thing. I was just saying like I was completely disoriented to the point of like I can't make any guesses.
But a lot of times people view that disorientation as a negative connotation. Oh. You know what I mean?
Keep me on my toes.
Like it, yeah. Like I'm generally not someone who likes change for change's sake. I totally love change when I can see the benefits of that change. And in this case, I think that there's a greater opportunity for fresh storytelling in a movie if you break from that slavishness to the 3-act structure.
Right.
Because then because they all, no matter, if it's a 1.5 hour movie or a 3-hour movie, they all start to feel a little bit the same, even if they're talking about wildly different things. Mm-hmm. Right? There's just it feels like, okay, and now is the time where we begin the next act. And it's like, I don't necessarily want to set my watch to that.
Yeah. Well, that's like, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. Like, it's you and your body is like ready for it, right? It's like, we're going to do origin story. We're going to flesh out some details, and we're going to do some insane conclusion. Again, that's how every movie has gone.
It feels like shift shock in a car when you're like shifting gears. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you can like almost like set yourself.
And now we're doing this.
Like momentum is stopped, and I'm gonna rock. And okay, now act 2 is
with this movie, it was more like we got to do the introduction. We're going to flesh out some details, and we're going to have a finale, and 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 a finale. And it just kept happening, and one was more ridiculous than the other. And then we had an ending.
So the whole movie was Lord of the Rings ending.
Right. What was it? What movie were we doing that suffered from Lord of the Rings beginning? Dune. That was... That's right. Oh, man. You want to dive into some spoilers and get into some favorite moments?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit deeper. The veil has been lifted. Just, honestly, I don't know that you can really spoil the movie because it was just a wild experience. You should just watch it. Even if you make it the rest of the way through this episode without having seen it, watch it afterwards. It's ridiculous.
Some of the specifics to the plot of like the nitty gritty of we're getting trapped in Jupiter's atmosphere and we're going to explode the atmosphere, and maybe you don't quite see those things coming. But I will say, for as much as we've kind of highlighted some of the ways it feels a little different, a lot of this did feel the same. Like, looking back, it's like, oh yeah, Grandpa was always going to die. Sure. Dad probably too.
Sure.
Everyone else largely survived, and like that's usually how, the grizzled, like cranky veteran who pisses everyone off and pushes them all away, who then has a change of heart and finds his humanity later on, is going to die. Like that's his redemption arc and all that. So like those things did feel very conventional for what we're used to. I will say with a movie like this, when you're going to do a big sci-fi epic type of thing, you get, at least for me, and I think the audience to whatever degree should kind of try and mirror this, right? If you're going to have this high concept sci-fi movie, you get one major, we're breaking science, or at least we're asking you to suspend disbelief, right?
We're breaking science, yeah. Sure.
I'm not an astrophysicist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express. No, I've taken many college level like science and physics courses, so I have at least a rudimentary baseline knowledge. I don't know what your mileage on that is.
I'm pretty much with you.
When we've talked about these sorts of things, I tend to get into those nitty gritty a little bit more than you do. I don't know if it's because I know more about those things specifically, or it's just that I have more of an attachment to them than you do. Mm-hmm. So when you're going to start me right off and say, we built engines on the plane, stop the spin, we're going to blast it away. Okay, why not? Like, we're in your future 100 years from now, we're going to do this thing. I'll give you that. We'll just do it on the front end.
It's funny that you say that. That was the first thing that made me just go. I immediately it was a gut. It was just a gut reaction. I said out loud to no one because I was watching the movie by myself. What about the waves though? And and then they answered that question and they showed families, just numerous families underwater.
Yeah, frozen.
Yeah.
And they actually did do a pretty good job, I think, of answering some of those questions along the way. I don't remember what it was now, but I had one specific question. I was like, we're really just going to... And it almost felt like... Retcon's not the right word, right? Because it's within the movie. It's intra-movie. But at one point, it was like, I feel like you're doing this now because someone along the way of the script realized, I think we might have missed something back there. We'll just deal with it then. Rather than rewrite the whole thing, we'll just throw something. And
that's fine, future writers' problem.
Yeah, no, it's within the same movie, so okay, fine. We just didn't say it then, and we're saying it now, and it's okay. But I'm totally willing to just suspend the. Listen, the way our current understanding of physics and science and material science works now, there's literally no possible way that we could make a stable engine and a situation just in general of how we could push the Earth, anywhere, even a foot, let alone 4.5 light years. Mm-hmm. There's just no way to do it. We don't have the technology. We won't have the technology in 1,000 years, let alone 100. And I think there's probably hard constraints on, the amount of fuel it would take to do it, even if we could find an efficient enough way to create such an engine.
Rocks.
Yeah, which that's the least efficient thing you can burn. I never really understood that at all when they were doing it in the movie, so it's just another one of those things where you have to say, okay, fine.
When they said that, I went, whatever.
Well, I was always a little confused on just what, in general, a lighter core is, specifically. Sure. But whatever.
It's the Omega-13 device.
Yeah. So... even if you could come up with the efficiency part of it, right? Whatever, mm-hmm. The amount of fuel it would take to push the Earth away from wherever it is at any given point would eventually destroy the Earth because of the amount of fuel consumed would be greater than the amount of fuel that the Earth has, and it's mm-hmm. not being replenished by anything. So the Earth is ultimately just going to crack and disintegrate because, you used all the filling, all the juicy goodness inside.
The one way they could have went around this is if they figured out some sort of mechanic where they harness the energy of the sun that was about to engulf them.
Yeah, well, and it's actually something, and I've brought it up on the show, a multitude of times, but Mass Effect Andromeda had a pretty good solution to this sort of thing. If we're going to, again, suspend disbelief for the sci-fi aspect of this, you get the one central technology that you're going to bullshit and everything that spins off from that, right? So mm-hmm. in Mass Effect, they have the Mass Effect, element 0, fictional substance, electrify it, it can change the mass, which helps to break the E = mc squared equation that governs the universe as we understand it right now. Is why we can't ever even approach light speed, let alone get there, because the amount of energy required to move a given mass is impossible to achieve to reach, the speed of light squared. Mm-hmm. But if you change the mass of the thing, the mass effect, you can do so. But even still, they have those specific devices, the mass relays, that fling these ships faster than conventional, faster than light travel would go.
Right.
And so in Mass Effect Andromeda, as they're not using a relay, they use conventional FTL. They created technology. One of the things from the very first game, so it's not actually any sort of retcon, it's an evolving of the technology introduced in the game, is static discharge is an important part of, the engines that they use. So they created a technology that allows them to reharness some of that static electricity to use it to continue to propel them while they're on the journey through space. It's
like regenerative braking.
Well, it's basically I was going to say, it's more isn't that what a turbocharger or a supercharger, one of those does? Doesn't it reclaim exhaust and use part of it as part of the...
I think that's how a turbo works.
Yeah, I think that's how it is. So it's essentially, a scaled up version of that. So you know what? Fair enough. I like that ingenuity. Let's take real life stuff and we'll graft it onto the thing that we have, and it.
What movie is it? I'm going to science the shit out of it.
That was The Martian. And so, getting back to my original point on this, we made Earth engines. Okay. Doesn't work. Doesn't work in real life. But that's your one. Like, that's your thing. You can have it.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. Make it a good one, right? Make it your central plot device, and I'll give it to you. We'll do it. It'll be fun. We'll have fun with it, right?
You go, I don't know about it, but they're like, but look at these beautiful scenes we're going to make with it.
Yeah, and there were some really cool scenes of, like, you know, the Earth and Jupiter and the sun from, like, outer space. Like, I really did appreciate them with. What I don't love is then when you've used your one, and they picked a good one to use, right? And then you start breaking shit later with physics too. I was like, no, you had your one. Stop doing that now. Because now is when it starts to nitpick, you know?
Yeah.
Because the gravitational spike of Jupiter, no. The gravity of Jupiter is always what it is. It doesn't change. The gravity of any planet is always what it is.
So, okay, there was a couple things like that came up that I wasn't certain if it was just the translation.
Okay, so I didn't watch
I think it was like more like gravitational pull, and they've entered it.
Well, they did that, but it was after a gravitational spike of, was it 7.5% or something like that?
I thought that was like breaking that thread. I was willing to brush that off, assuming that spike was just not the word that they meant.
Yeah, and I think there were a couple of times where there was, I won't say there was translation issues, but just like weirdness. Mm-hmm. Like when they're talking about Moss, the computer, there was an insubordination. I was like, that's not how Americans speak.
Yeah.
But like, it's not wrong what they said. It's just not how we would phrase it. You know what I mean? And so like that's fine. Like that's gonna happen. I don't think there's any other way to construe gravitational spike, because then eventually you're right, they got caught in the gravitational pull, but that's as a result of their calculations being off because there was a sudden spike in the gravity of the planet. Because that actually is real. We can go back to Armageddon, right? Using the slingshot effect of,
oh my God,
you're rocketing around a heavenly body to get additional acceleration beyond what your conventional means are. It's a thing that all sci-fi has kind of adjusted to and used at some point now since then. And it's a real thing. That's how we really would do things. That's how a proposed flight to Mars would work. We would fling our rocket ship at the moon. You would zip around the moon back to Earth. And then you would zip around Earth and fling you crazy freaking fast at Mars. That's how it works. So, totally on board with that proposed plan.
Sure.
What I'm not totally on board with is the mass of Jupiter suddenly increasing for no reason. Because that's not how planets work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Well, yeah, that's fair.
And in conjunction with that, once we've then grabbed onto Earth and we're sucking the atmosphere out, which actually I had never thought of, and I was like, you know what? I don't know if that's real or not, but from the distance it's at and how long it's going to take for the orbit to decay, okay, why not? I guess it could happen, you know.
It looks cool.
It did look cool. That was some of the coolest, most beautiful shots, you know. But the thing is, I don't see why that something like that couldn't happen, because it was going to be a gradual process, right?
Uh-huh.
That being said, I feel less like safe on the let's just fire the plasma at the oxygen that's mixing with the gas to light Jupiter on fire.
Right.
Jupiter is a lot bigger than Earth. A lot. Yeah. I don't believe that you can light Jupiter on fire.
And Archer slaps the lighter out of your hand. What are you doing?
God damn it, the helium! One of the great episodes of television history.
Yeah, my when they said that they were going to ignite Jupiter, I was like, that's going to blow you up. If this is the thing that we're going to go with, that's going to blow you up.
The thing is, like, to whatever extent, that's what they wanted, right? Enough of an explosion to shake Earth away from Jupiter. Now, did they ever explain, and I will confess I did fall asleep for about 7 minutes in this movie, and I just didn't care to rewind. I had the gist of what was going on, and I was enjoying the movie. It wasn't because it was just like I felt like the crunch of time against me. It was the events leading directly up to when the grandfather died.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little confused as to why they were going down that elevator shaft. And I just, like I said, I didn't know. I was honestly afraid.
They were going up the elevator shaft.
Well, whatever. It seemed like they were going down.
They were taking the lighter core somewhere.
Yes.
They were down on the ground.
Okay.
They needed to go up.
All I know is that the rest of them were up at the top, so I assumed they were going down.
No, the rest of them got up at the top miraculously fast. And then one of them unhinged his Gatling gun to rip open the wall.
Steve Buscemi style.
Yeah. And
actually, that's a Brad Pitt style, right? Because he's the one who tore open the side of the ship in Armageddon with the machine when they drove through it after they crashed the ship in Armageddon.
I don't remember.
Was it the Freedom and the Enterprise? Is that what it was? No, not the Enterprise. The Freedom and the whatever it is in Armageddon. One of them crashes, one of them lands, right? The one with Brad Pitt and Michael Clark Duncan and the Swedish guy playing the Russian guy whose name I can't think of. Peter Stormare and Owen Wilson's fucked up face, and that's not.
Are you saying Brad Pitt?
I'm saying Brad Pitt, and I meant Ben Affleck, and you know that.
Okay. No, I didn't know that. I was like,
talking about Armageddon, goddammit.
I know. I was like,
did I say Brad Pitt?
I thought it was like crazy. I thought it was like one of those executive decision things where like the name is there, but you're in the mood for 2 minutes.
No. Armageddon, Ben Affleck.
Okay,
obviously.
Cool.
They when they figure out that their rover is still functional, they have to drive it out of the shell of the crashed ship, and they use the minigun to trace a big hole in the.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
I was thinking of the more famous scene with the machine gun, though, is Steve Buscemi firing it off into the thing when he's got the. The space craziness.
He's got the space crazies.
He's got the space crazies. I don't know if they ever actually said what it was, but space dementia. Was it a space dementia? They did have a name for it.
They had a name for it? I don't even remember.
They did. I couldn't remember what it was, though.
All I'm getting out of this is I need to watch Armageddon stat.
I mean, it's a phenomenal bad movie.
Oh, it's a good decision.
But anyway, back to what I was saying. Did they ever explain what caused the earthquakes? Or was it just the gravitational spike?
I thought it was that the engines failed. And the abrupt change in everything caused the earthquakes.
Okay, see, that was a little while, obviously, before I fell asleep, but I was a little bit tired. I had wondered when I was watching it, and again, there was a lot going on, so I was just having trouble keeping up with the text, if the earthquake caused the engines to turn off and not the other way around. Like, it seems like he took it the other way around.
Yeah, well, I say that now, but I don't fully remember or know that it was clearly explained.
Honestly, not that big of a deal. Like,
it's definitely, you know what it was? It was the gravitational spike. Let's just go with that. That's going to be the answer for everything going forward. It
seems reasonable, all things considered. As reasonable as a gravitational spike can be in this case. It can't be, but
which is not.
Which is not. But if we're going to say that's a thing, then it makes sense. Mm-hmm. So anyway, if that relatively tame interaction with planet to planet happened and was going to break the Earth, I'm pretty sure igniting a planet 100 times bigger than it and blowing yourself up away from it would also break Earth in half.
Well, okay, I'm 100% with you, especially with the concept of, they were talking about, the first what they were showing you was that Earth was they're off course, Earth is going to collide with Jupiter. Mm-hmm. Then they said that it's not really that it's going to collide with Jupiter, it's that it's going to get so close that it's going to disintegrate because Jupiter is going to pull it apart.
Yeah, and then I was both of those things are kind of true at the same time.
If Jupiter's going to pull it apart while it's passing by, if you were to blow Jupiter up, it is going to explode Earth in the way that the sun was going to.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially they were trying to propel the Earth away from the Jupiter with fireworks.
Yes.
Let's just create an explosion. It's going to push it away.
Yeah.
Which
push.
Push. And it's okay, so if you want to say all combustion engines are doing that to some degree or other, fine, but not Exactly. This is literally an explosive charge, like a shaped charge that's going to propel it away, which, like, that force has to be directed through the planet. And we've already chewed up a lot of, like, the crust and mantle of this planet to, like, light it on fire already, I guess.
Right.
So it doesn't feel like it's super stable from a structural standpoint, and also, like, the gravitational pull of Jupiter. It is pulling it apart, which will cause it to disintegrate. Like that part, if they actually got right.
Sure. Well, you know, it's funny. You talk about the crust of the Earth was we were devouring it basically to power these engines. Which the planet's not going to exist by the time we get where we're going. That's more.
Yeah, 2,500 years feels like too long. Although eventually,
unless we don't need to feed the engines after we've slingshotted, which is
that's the thing. I think is after you've picked your destination and you've charted that course, you should stop the engines because you're just going to keep a fixed speed, and it actually makes sense because eventually you have to fire the engines back up the other way to decelerate, which they
at which point the Earth will just crumble into pieces. But
that's probably true too.
Regardless,
also, remember we've chewed up a bunch of Earth to create this propulsion, so the Earth will be skinnier. It'll be lighter.
That's fair. And actually, this is kind of the point that I was getting to. Is they glossed over something pretty traumatic that happened. And I mean glossed over it. They mentioned it, and then they moved on with their mission to go somewhere else. But one of the cities they were traveling to was engulfed in magma.
Yes. Liquid magma.
To which I said, the core of the Earth is coming through because we've chipped away so much at the surface.
Yes.
And I think each of those cities had like millions of people in it.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, we're just not dealing with this. Not talking about it. We're just like, oh shucks, and then they moved on to the next thing.
Cruel calculus of war.
Yeah. You watched half the movie with subtitles and half the movie dubbed, right?
Correct.
I think this happened towards the end of the movie, so you might not have experienced it the same way that I did. But towards the end of the movie, there were random lines in English.
Which line?
Random things were said in English. There was a couple of curses and like funny statements that were made, specifically by Tim.
Well, I guess it's plausible for Tim because he was half Australian,
right? Which one of my questions for the group, I have a section in my notes called "Questions for the Group," and one of them is just, "What's the deal with Tim?" Because what a bizarre character.
Tim was the token white guy in a movie that, well, actually did have one white guy. It's a little weird. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Chinese-made movie that it would be so China-centric. I was a little...
Sure.
I mean, and there was little nods to it, like, early in the movie and the middle of the movie, right, where it's the talking to the UEG and it's different races with different, different countries, different nationalities, different languages, and it's like, okay, like, that's your nod to the fact that this is actually a global coalition, but you would have thought, for the amount of time they spent, that they probably would have homogenized a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there might be, like, 2 or 3 people who aren't like Chinese instead of just one random Russian guy and one half Chinese, half Australian guy.
Yeah. My other note, which was just something that took me by surprise and I adored it, was the Russian cosmonaut speaking Chinese in a Russian accent. Blew me away. It's just not something that I have heard before, and I just thought it was so cool.
Well, yeah, because you think of like Americans speaking like Chinese in an American accent, or Chinese speaking English in a Chinese accent,
right? And
the many other people we meet from other countries who speak English with their accent. We don't think of, oh, what does it sound like for a Russian guy to be speaking Chinese? What does it sound like for a guy from Australia to be speaking Spanish? You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
And every time he was on screen, Al, it was a delight. And I mean a true delight. Especially when he yelled something about being a Russian cosmonaut as he dove out of the spaceship. What did he say? He has a great line. I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember. He did have a couple of good lines.
That was he met his untimely demise.
Yeah, I felt... Well, he was a little confusing to me in those last two scenes of his because he kept ping-ponging back and forth between I'm a Russian badass and I just want to go home, which was really confusing for me to keep track of what particular emotion that he had at any given time.
Right.
Can we talk about one of my favorite parts?
Yeah, what's your favorite part? What's your favorite moment?
I put as my favorite part here. Routes are countless. Safety is foremost. Unregulated driving. Your loved ones may end up in tears.
I was just prepared for you to open the show with that.
That was one of my candidates, but the thrilling music continues. It's so toxic. That is the most threatening safety warning I've ever heard. Like, follow the rules, or your family is gonna be fucking miserable. Like, what a threat!
Yeah.
Like, every once in a while you see the people who put up like the joke sign. You know what I mean? Like trespass. There's that one that's always made the round. Your trespassers will be shot. Survivors will be shot again. And it's like, okay, like that's you being a dick who wants to enforce his private property or whatever. Like, it's not the same as your company or your government like telling you how to. Like, could you imagine OSHA putting that warning up, like in like a warehouse? You know what I mean?
It should be. It's great. It's a real motivator.
Also, I'm not entirely sure what the whole routes are countless thing was supposed to mean. Like the safety's foremost, got it. Unregulated driving, super dangerous. If you fuck it up, you're gonna die, and/or your family's gonna be punished. Okay, I understand it. Don't approve, but I understand it. What is the routes are countless thing? I mean,
I don't know. I got something like there's no like real roads, maybe like that you could go anywhere, and like that's like a power that that you have to be cautious with.
I guess.
I don't know. I think we're looking too far into it.
It wasn't about picking. Like, it wasn't about picking whatever. I'm like genuinely asking. Like, I'm not entirely sure what that means.
So, my favorite moment is the explanation of how they're going to pull off the plasma burst. They're in the truck, and the one guy with his computer. Unfortunately, this is how I'm going to have to talk about the movie. I don't know any of the characters' names. I attempted to put them through a pronunciation thing online, and I was just not having any luck.
I know two names for sure.
Okay.
There was, and it's gonna sound ever so slightly insensitive / borderline racist, and I didn't have this issue with any of the other names.
Okay.
But I wanted to laugh every time someone said Lee Yi. Because
who is that? That
was the scientist guy that they meet up with later with the glasses, the one who comes up with the whole plan and was doing.
Oh, okay. So the guy who I'm talking about.
His name was Lee Yi. And when they said his name fast, it sounded like someone was giggling.
Okay. Okay.
Gotcha. That was why, because the only name I had any issue with in that way, shape, or form. Like, because otherwise, like, I have no issues with that at all. But like, someone like said like a couple of times, someone was like Lee, and it sounded like someone was like giggling or something like that. The other one was the girl was, I believe, Han Duo.
Yeah. That's the other one that I kept saying duo just because I couldn't really hear what was. The other thing was I actually had the volume really low because I knew I wasn't going to be able to understand it anyway, so I just had the subtitles on, so I didn't really hear them say anything.
That's one of those things where it's with American English, we tend to put the emphasis on the first syllable in almost every word, whereas in a lot of other languages, they put it last or second to last. Mm-hmm. So that's the only you're not. It's not like you're far off. You basically have it right. Duo. Like it's essentially the same.
Right. Okay. What was the protagonist's name?
I forget.
Do you know how to pronounce QI?
Oh. When it's just... Oh, yeah, so I thought it was Lou, right? Yeah,
but that's the surname.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it was just, like, Liu Key.
Okay. Well, they were calling him
so I thought,
Lou,
and the father, right? The father was Liu Kang.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
The one I was never 100% sure of what the one's name was what was the captain's name?
You're asking me. I was just the one asking you about all the other main character names. I have no idea.
Well, I was hoping that you'd be able to... you're obviously looking at the cast list and asking me about pronunciation. I was just wondering if you could point me to the correct name.
Oh, gotcha. No.
It's okay. I was just, there was a few of them that I kind of just lost track of. Or, like, I kind of, like, had them, and then because I was not watching it actively, like, I turned it off.
Yeah.
Well, for one, with watching it with the dub, they didn't put the names up anymore. Because, like, the names eventually got confusing, where it's like, I'm not entirely sure who's saying what, and now I'm like, I thought I had all the names straight, and now I don't anymore. And then I just totally forgot them watching the final, like, 45 minutes without the dubs, or without the subtitles, because it was dubbed over. But I mean, it's fine. Like, it was, at least you put the kind of the roles to the faces. Like, that's the more important part, I guess.
All right. Well, when Lee is given the plan, and he goes with this whole ridiculous plan, and then he goes, any questions, and they all raise their hands, and he just turns around. I it was hysterical.
He had a couple of funny moments like that, where it's like, it's just one of those very obvious disconnects, like, where, like, he just doesn't get how other people are.
Right.
There was another line that cracked me up, and they used it a couple of times. It was another one of the ones. Actually, that was what, remember I told you I was trying to come up with a name for the Zencaster. There's too many characters. He said, when he first gets into the transporter, and he turns to the sister, and he goes, she says, "Do you even know how to do this or whatever?" And he goes, "I'm a genius for even getting this thing moving," or something like that.
He said, I'm a genius so many times to her.
Yeah. Well, he's like, what? It's supposed to be like 5 years of training or whatever like that. He goes, "I'm a genius for getting able to get this thing moving."
Do you have some moments that you would call out as your least favorite?
There was a couple of times, or like things where it felt like they were kind of a one-off that didn't really fit in with what was going on. Like, I think if they were going to do it, I wish they would have given us more about what was going on the ship, to get a better context for what that work environment was like, and why, like, what specifically they were, like, I get, like, they were the navigation, but I don't know what that means exactly from the perspective of, like, what they were doing for the planet, like, why they needed to be on a ship and why they couldn't have just been on the planet to begin with. I mean, I guess the answer ends up being because they were this secondary, like, procedure, like the backup, like, so they could leave with the embryos or whatever.
Well, they were the primary, it turns out, but they said something along the lines of, like, it was like a diagnostics check of everything that's in front of the path of Earth, so that they could either intercept or make some changes if necessary. It sounded like,
but then they don't.
Well, that's what it was. That's what the people were told. But at the end, when you find out that that Earth is going to crash into Jupiter, the machine says that they already knew that it wasn't going to work. So, like, they weren't actually reporting correct information back to the planet.
What was that? What they said? Because I thought the whole point was that once they figured out that. It sounds like you're saying, like, that they never intended for the Earth to survive.
The machine and whatever form, like, whatever government at the top.
It's the UEG, the United Earth Government.
They were intentionally misinforming the rest of the planet.
I didn't get that from this. I know that the rest of the planet wasn't informed of the contingency plan.
Mm-hmm.
What it sounded like was that they always wanted the plan to work, but that when they met a situation that they couldn't correct for, they just strung them along until it was too late, and then they were going to peace out.
Well, they never revealed their hand, but the machine says something. It's towards the end of the movie. It's towards, like, it's closer to the finale, that there was they knew that it wasn't going to work a long, long time ago.
Really? Because I thought it was just that. I thought it was just that when the gravitational spike happened, that they just, like, sat on that information, so no one panicked and no one tried to. It was
something along the lines of, like, it was like a 1 in a million shot that it would actually make it around Jupiter or something like that.
Okay, I mean, like, that was true to some extent, but it seemed like in general, though, they legitimately crunched all the numbers and just said, it's not going to work, so why even try? Which, that's classic computer logic, and that's fine. But it felt like in that moment, it was like, well, we tried, not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, it never felt like it was always set up to fail. At least that was not my perception of it.
It was. I think that was from what I got out of it. That was the message, and it made it more sinister, which I thought was kind of cool. Was I think the robots seemed like the AI seemed a little bit more interesting in that light. One thing that actually I listed here as least favorite moments, though, is I just felt like there was a lot of giving up real early. like when they get that lighter core up that elevator shaft, and that takes forever. People are mad. Things happen. People died. I understand. Then they are getting towards the city, and the city is under magma. And then the one officer in the rescue group just starts shooting the lighter core, and I'm like, I didn't get any sort of the emotional or relationship side that she had with the rest of the team. And it just felt very out there. Like, why would you do this at all? It just seems like some sort of useful piece of tech, whether you can use it in this situation that it was originally intended for or somewhere else. It seems pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a decision I would make, but the point was that this guy was out of control. And she was basically like, the only way you're going to be reined back in is if we make it very clear to you that you won't be able to continue to strong-arm us. And the reason you won't be able to continue to strong-arm us is we've eliminated your motivation. We've destroyed the thing. Now, short-sighted.
But you know what the other thing is? I think, were you watching this part of the movie dubbed or no?
No, I still was watching with subtitles.
Oh, because I was going to say, this stuff, it was moving so quickly that I understand what you're saying, and that makes sense. I didn't get any of that. I
thought that was pretty obvious that he always was very Machiavellian in his pursuit of this, which, when you consider what his role was, that's not his fault, really. I mean, you could ask him to maybe dial it back 10%, but
I disagree. I don't think he should dial it back at all, only because of how dire the situation was that we're in.
Sure. Well, I guess when I say dial back, an iota of empathy for the kid's grandfather dying. You know what I mean? You're not going to stop the mission, obviously, but yes, I'm very sorry that your grandfather died. Not shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? There's a different way to have that conversation. And, he's pushing these people, and not all of them trained, obviously. Tim and the other two were not trained for this. The grandfather was trained a bit for it, right? Because he was actually trained how to drive the transporter. But, he's pushing them beyond what they can handle, which, you could say the situation is dire enough where they should. But it's not only is he pushing people what they could pass, he's literally causing deaths. And it's a question of well, were those people dying in the service of the cause, or are they just dying because they can't keep up because they never trained for this? You know what I mean? It wasn't
I got you.
The grandfather didn't really die a heroic sacrifice, No.
I did remember during that one of the lines that is in English is towards the end of the movie when Tim has the rope that is around the protagonist and he jumps down, and to make it pull him out faster, he yells, "Fuck this shit," in English when he jumps down. And I was like, what a character. I just you are the first of this character. I don't even understand you at all. You're so ridiculous.
The really funny thing was with the dub, oh my god, he has the douchiest, most stereotypical, surfer dude voice.
Does he really?
It's obnoxious.
Oh man, I kind of want to rewatch it dubbed.
I mean, this is the type of movie I would check it out again eventually. I don't need it right now, but it was an enjoyable movie. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, well, it was absurd. Let's see what I got here. Oh, well, okay. So one thing that really bothered, not really bothered me, but there is a calculation side to this, and then it's the concept of taking. First off, how many people were on the space station, and were the rest of them dead?
I'm assuming they're all dead, or a lot of them, because, well, yeah, no, they said something, right, when the two of them were trying to crawl up the ship or whatever. Didn't he say, like, there are other spaces?
They did, but they specifically pointed out where it was happening, and it looked like there was, like, so many of those chambers, and just maybe one or two other ones were in the same boat as them. Which got me thinking that, like, on the rest of that ship, it seems like there's actually a pretty significant number of people that I would, under the assumption, are still in sort of hibernation or cryosleep or whatever it was that they were in, which he Independence Day'd into the plasma blast, which I was like, oh, like, I understand, like, the concept of, like, yeah, like, you know, your attachment to your family, and thinking that this could potentially work. Like, it could potentially work, but you are the contingency.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know how we went from, like, they said, like, if it's, like, just rebuilding it, it's not like rebuilding it. It's kind of like Asgard is the people, right? Like, it's not right. So, like, rebuilding it is not the same thing as helping them survive. But I was just like, the equation is off here. Like, you should not be flying the ship to explode. Oh,
yeah. Well, I thought it was kind of a cool line too when whichever member of the UEG was like, you know, as a member of the UEG, I cannot possibly authorize you to do this, but as a private citizen, I can broadcast the call, and any other private citizen can choose to do with that information what they want.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool.
That was kind of a nice, like, poignant moment.
That was like an epic scene.
Yeah.
Or like the rally cry.
I did like the call and response of, you know, her making the call and them all listening, and you could see the tide turning for a lot or most of them, but there's no, like, call back, and she's like, she finishes talking and she's like, what do I do now? And she, like, runs over to help them move the thing, and I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden all the people started showing up, and there's a moment of recognition on her face, like, oh my god, they did hear me. Like, I thought it was really cool. There was a handful of things like that, you know, as we mentioned, like, the emotional heart of it, like, you know, the stuff with him and the father. Mm-hmm. I wish they'd given a little bit more into, like, the evolution of their relationship over time. Where, like, yeah,
it felt unwarranted. The animosity that the protagonist has for just anybody seemed like there wasn't. I mean, I like, there's things there that you can guess and piece between, but you're not given any of it, so it's a little weird.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a problem with them setting it up the way they did. I just wish there would have been a little bit more, like, you know, it didn't have to go to the full lengths that Interstellar did, but I kind of liked that you see, like, the progression of the video calls being left. Mm-hmm. As she gets more and more frustrated, or I guess both, right? They get more and more frustrated as time goes.
Yeah. I will say one thing I'm glad they cleared it up. Maybe they took a little too long to do it because I was very confused. But the constant, you'll see your son soon enough. You'll get to be with your son. And this whole time I'm like, what about son? That boy has a sister. I was like, what? I was like, well, what about your daughter? And then when they explained that, I was like, this is actually a really heartfelt and awesome piece of the story. I'm glad that they went there.
Yeah, it was, and that was one of the times where that detour really served, like, the world building in this sort of like situation. But yeah, I was thrown for a while about that too, because, like, eventually we're going to have to get some sort of answer to this, right? Or is it some of these translation things? Because, you know, it's clearly just the one boy in the opening scene, like, very young, 4 years old or whatever, and there's no one else. And they made a very obvious point early on of saying, "Yeah, your mom died. Gave birth to you," or, like, right after, whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. So I was like, so where did this younger sister come from? And the grandfather early on at one point says, you know, to her, you know, something about him and his father, and I was like, is she not?
Right.
I
kept playing this game too. I was like,
father.
I was like, we're really making this character a second-class citizen, and I don't like how this is being treated.
Yeah, I was like, is he not her father? And if he is, who's the mother, and how did that happen if he's been in that spaceship this whole time?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you get that story, and it's like, oh, well, this makes more sense now.
That was a pretty cool story, though, of like the grandfather like saving her and then adopting. It was really cool. One of those heartstring moments that they pull on, which is pretty cool. Just a simple note of with 7 days left, why are we looting? I don't really have much else other than just like it's a wild ride. It's a strange and interesting experience.
There's definitely some pulse pounding like situations that go on, so like that's definitely entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else, Al?
No, I think that's about it.
Well, that's it. Let's wrap it up. That's all for this week's episode of Flix and the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixandthesix@thespintune.com or tweet us at thespintune. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
And I'm Al Bielsi.
Al, be better.
Anthony, be better.
Thanks for coming out.